All right. I think we are live. What is going on, everybody? This is the one and only Randall Thor 19, the man with the million, back again with another episode of the Xbox 2. I believe this is around episode, 188 per almost 190, getting up there to like episode 200. But as always, we are joined by the incredible Jez Corden of Windows Central. What's going on, buddy?
Hey, Rand, how are you? I'm doing wonderful right now. And by that, I mean I got a cup of tea. So, all is right in the world. Friday night, cup of tea, Microsoft Word open, writing an article. You know,
Writing an article?
That's party time when you're in your mid-30s, man.
What's your article about? What are you writing? You writing any leaks, any news and rumor stuff that you're hearing on the grapevine, giving out to your patient readers over at Windows Central? Talking about more code name leaks, more games, or what are we doing here?
Maybe, bro. Maybe.
Interesting.
Maybe. You have to wait and see. Can't spoil the surprise. But how have you been, friendo? I've been you, Mr. Randall Books guy.
I've been doing pretty good. Had a nice discussion with one of my biggest fans on Twitter yesterday after he attacked me. It was kind of funny. That was I don't know if you saw any of that. That was definitely entertaining. I'm like reading my book and then I get like notifications on my phone and I'm just looking at this and I'm like, man, somebody like really is all about what I do, you know? And I thought that was kind of funny.
OLED guy?
Yeah, that was an OLED guy. But you know, that's the cool thing about Twitter is I can just mute, baby. Just hit that little mute button, not only on threads, but also on people. So I never have to see them ever again. And that's an amazing part of the social media experience. Is it's like one click of the button and you just disappear from my life completely. I didn't know you existed before, and now I'll make sure I never see anything from you ever again. You know what I'm saying?
Rip.
Well,
you know, it happens, man. It happens.
Yeah.
But you mustn't let the trolls get to you because there are hundreds of people flooding into the show today to listen to what we have to say, spend their Friday nights listening to us banter around, listen to us speak in American accents, and so on and so forth.
I mean Friday afternoon.
Oh, you know, same thing. Same thing.
Yeah. Shout out to Chapter Plays for becoming the newest member. Appreciate it, man. And we already got a super chat in here, Jez, from Flame. He says, what does Jez call a plumber who also works in an internet company? A roto-router. A roto-rooter. Have a great show, gents. I'm gonna play Astro Ascending. A roto-rooter?
But what? I don't get it.
A plumber who works at an internet company. A roto-rooter.
Why is a plumber a roto-rooter?
I mean, I get what he's... I get the joke. You don't get the joke?
What is a roto? Is that some other Americanism?
Oh, jeez. You know what? You have Google at your fingertips. Go check.
I don't use Google, Rand. I'm not a peasant.
Use
Bing?
Bing?
Use Bing.
Did you see?
Yeah,
did you see what Google put out and said? Bing's most searched term is how to get to Google or whatever. Is like.
Yeah. I'm not surprised.
That's a flex right there.
Well, you know, I actually witnessed that happen last week because I got my mom a Surface Pro X because she was using some horrible laptop that was like designed for Windows Vista to do her work on. And like watching that thing boot up for like 3 minutes every time, I was like, man, I gotta get my mom on a computer. So I got her a computer, and the first thing she said was, okay, but where's Google? Not where's the internet browser, where's Google? And I said, your web browser, Mom, is here. And she clicked on it, and then she was like, hang on, this isn't Google. and then she typed Google into Bing.
That is just
yeah,
huge flex by Google to say,
It
you
is a
know
huge
what,
flex.
like the most searched term or whatever on our competitor's search engine is how to use Google. It's actually incredible.
Well, it's funny because they made that argument to say, look, we don't have a monopoly. People just want to use Google. But for me, that's an argument that says, well, you've trained everyone to want to use Google through your monopoly. So it's funny because I got a new phone recently, and the EU has legislated that Android and Google have to give people a choice what default search engine they want to use when they start the phone up. So, like, you load into a new phone, and it's like, do you want Google, DuckDuckGo, Bing, whatever? But Google's still right at the top, and it's still the default selection. So, I don't know if that's like actually going to help with anything with regards to monopolies. But maybe we're going to talk about monopolies a bit later, because that's been a topic of discussion I've seen popping up on Twitter and stuff like that this week. A Roto-Rooter is a plumbing company.
Flame. A Roto-Rooter is a plumbing company, Jez.
Roto-Rooter.
Mm-hmm.
Roto-Rooter. The greatest damn plumbing business in all of the... How many states there are in America? 20? How many states are in America?
50.
I don't even know. 50? That's
50.
a lot of states, man.
50 states, yeah.
All 50 states in America.
Are you working on another...
Yeehaw! That's how Americans... That's how you talk, man.
That's how what, we all talk here in the States?
No, that's how half of you talk. The other half talks like this. Yo, dude! Tubular! That's how the other half talks.
Unbelievable.
But the other half... Oh, man.
Unbelievable. So have you only ever visited California and the beaches around there? Is that how you just assume we all talk?
That's how Miles Dompierre talks.
Oh, well, yeah, that's Miles, though. Yeah. That's definitely Miles. Shout out to Kill Antis for becoming the newest member of the channel. Thank you, man. So, how was your weekend, Jez? Or how has been your week? I know you're patiently waiting to get your chance at playing the Halo Infinite tech test again, especially with Big Team Battle. I mean, you tweeted out that you're really anticipating it now. So are you gonna be playing some Halo this weekend?
Yeah, man. You've actually reminded me that I need to boot up my Xbox and update it and stuff. I'm not a Halo guy. Everyone knows I'm not a big Halo guy.
Dude, trust me. Everybody listening to this podcast has known for the last 4 years you're not a Halo guy. But I think one of the best comeback story, or maybe not comeback story, but you basically you were a caterpillar. You didn't like Halo, but now you cocooned yourself and you're about to break out and share and spread your beautiful wings and becoming a Halo lover. And it's one of the greatest face turns in the history of podcasting right here. How Jez has turned, who once was, a hater of 343 and Halo and what they were doing, to now a lover, right? So,
well, I'm still of the opinion that the story's kind of weird and lame. Don't really like the Halo story. Although I will say that Halo 4 was quite emotional. I did like Halo 4. Halo 4 is probably my favorite one. Halo 4 is the only one that made me feel a flicker of emotion, even though it didn't have any Flood in it. The Flood are the coolest faction in all of Halo lore, and they haven't been in it since Halo 3, I believe. So I'm hoping the Flood come back to save Halo Infinite's story. But, I'm an Overwatch guy, I'm a Call of Duty guy when it comes to what games I play, and a Battlefield guy. But Overwatch has fallen off a cliff. And is nowhere to be found. And Call of Duty is just dead to me. So my go-to shooters this year are probably going to be Halo and Battlefield, if Battlefield doesn't also explode and crap the bed. But we don't really know what Battlefield's going to be like yet. I did play in the alpha, which was under NDA, so I don't really know if I can talk about it. But the end, even still, like the alpha probably wasn't representative of final gameplay of Battlefield 2042. So I'm hoping Battlefield 2042 turns out to be pretty good, and that can be my go-to show. But the thing about Battlefield 2042 and Battlefield in general, Rand, is that it's a pretty big investment. If you go into like a 64-player battle, you're probably going to be there for like 30 minutes, 45 minutes sometimes if it's like a big bottleneck game. Sometimes you just want to jump on and have a 10-minute game or a 15-minute game, in between articles or something. I used to use Overwatch for that, but not anymore because I'm fed up with it. So I'm thinking Halo is going to be my sort of go-to quick arena shooter. And people are upset that it's Force probably my favorite in the franchise. Oh man, but yeah, it's just because of that moment. You all know what I'm talking about. That moment, like, it's memorable. Like the rest of the game's not so memorable. And like I say, there's no flood in it. I don't know, but alas, Halo's looking up, man. I'm pretty excited for it now. I didn't care before. Now I'm like, yeah, you know what? It might actually be pretty good.
Yeah, what is your most anticipated game from Xbox Game Studios? Like, we know you're looking forward to Halo this year, but like, out of all the games that you know of and all the secret information that you have compiled in your vault and your PC,
man,
if you had to pick one that you're super excited for out of all the others, what would it be?
You are shady because you know, Rand.
Yeah, okay. I know. But the other people don't know. That's the whole point of the podcast. I may know this. I know the answer to this question.
Okay.
But the people don't.
Based on secret information, since you were strong-arming me there a little bit.
I was not. I didn't say anything about any secret information. You just let that slip yourself.
Well, Avowed has slipped into the top spot of my most anticipated games. There's also, I mean, Starfield's probably my most anticipated game, just because, they said this week there's 150,000 lines of dialogue. Bethesda's been consistently great over the years. Fallout 4 sort of dropped off a little bit, I feel like, and then we got Fallout 76 and stuff like that, But I feel like Starfield's going to be like a true return to form for the studio. But like, of the games that we don't really know about, I'm really excited for the future of Obsidian, man. Really excited. Hellblade 2, really excited for Hellblade. Avowed, really excited for Avowed. The Outer Worlds 2, really excited for the Outer Worlds 2. We're eating good, man. Xbox fans are going to be eating good. Let me tell you that much. Surf's up, bro.
Yeah, amazing. Achievement says, hey, Jez, what's up with the Windows Central article about Microsoft being the most hated? From the link in the article I read, Sony was the number one most hated at 10 countries.
I don't know. I didn't read that article. I don't actually know what article talking about. But There's an article on Windows Central talking about how like Microsoft was one of the most hated countries in the world. I can't even see that article on the front page.
Yeah, it was a few days ago.
I don't know. I've got a feeling that was probably written by Robert. I don't know. I don't know what article that is, but I'll look into it.
Right. Brett says, so Jez chose violence once again for choosing Halo 4 as his favorite game in the franchise. Facepalm. I guess Brett doesn't like the fact that you chose Halo 4. So, shout out to our dude Punkadish for being a member for 7 months. He says, as always, much love for my two favorite Xbox dudes. We appreciate you being here, Punk. And we're here on a Friday as well, which I prefer doing the show on Fridays. I wasn't sure we were going to be able to do it today, which is why I tweeted out hopefully, because I hadn't spoken to Jez today, and I'm like, it was like an hour before the show, and I still hadn't spoken to him. I'm like, well, I'm just going to put this tweet out, and hopefully he gets back to me. And then if it doesn't happen, then I'll just delete the podcast or whatever, and we'll do it tomorrow. But then Jez is like, nah, mate, we good. So I was like, all right, we're doing the show today.
Nah, mate. I'm not
like,
Australian.
I'm like, we good, innit? And I'm like, yeah, we're good.
Oh my god, you need to work on that.
Yeah, I definitely need to do. So, Yeah. Anything else going on, Jez? You wanna talk about any games? I know. I saw your post. You're playing a little Scarlet Nexus on Cloud Gaming.
Oh man, I was like, because Scarlet Nexus hit Game Pass, and that's been a rumor for quite a while. I think mainly because it just feels like a game that would hit Game Pass, right? And oh, that's a bit loud. Let's turn that down. I was kind of like, I've been, I really enjoy Scarlet Nexus. I just can't find the bloody time to play it. Like every time I come to play, it's like, oh no, I've got to play this game for an article. Now I've got to play this game for an article. And every time I play Scarlet Nexus, I play it for about an hour and then like save it and then don't pick it up again for another month. And I thought, well, you know, I'm gonna try it with touch controls because it has a custom UI for the touch controls, right? Custom UI, and it's got like some of the combos are like on the screen, so you don't have to try and press both buttons since you've only got your two thumbs to play at the same time. And some of the combos require that you press two buttons at the same time. So I was trying to play it, Rand, and man, I'm just sitting there thinking, how do kids play with touch controls? How do they do it? How do kids play PUBG and Fortnite with touch controls? Did you know touch controls are the #1 way that people play PUBG and Fortnite? Touch controls. I have no idea how people do it. Like I can barely, like there was no lag playing on 5G, no lag whatsoever. I'm pressing the buttons and things happen as instantly as you'd expect, you know. And man, but the issue is that my brain can't remember where the B button is without looking at it. You know, every single bloody time I'm like, where's the dodge button? You know, and my thumb's in the wrong place and I'm hammering the screen with my thumb blindly and I can't find the bloody buttons. I don't know how kids do it, man. I don't know how kids do it. So shout out to the kids who, you know, they know how to play. They know how to play this stuff with touchscreens. But yeah, other than that, I've been playing a game that I can't talk about for review. But I will be playing Big Team Battle this weekend. Since my app's update. In fact, I'm gonna put it on right now and play it.
Oh, you love, yeah. Jez is always playing games during the podcast. Shout out to
I'm multitasking.
To Punk Edition, the super chat. He says, "Here's a little something to show my support. Thank you, buddy." Exodian says, "Yo, Jez and I1000IQ guy," which is I think what you called me right on Twitter and on the show last week for my Perfect Dark initiative take that we talked about on the podcast.
There's quite a few people who called you Rand 1000IQ last week on the show.
Yeah,
it wasn't me that started it. But
he wants to know.
Shout out to whoever started that because it's damn true. It's damn true, buddy.
If we'll see Hellblade 2 gameplay at the VGAs. We got Space Dovikin saying Jez's voice sounds way more awesome today. Did you get a new mic? And
well, I'm in the UK now, so I've got my Blue Yeti X, I think. In Germany, I've got like I've got a cheaper microphone in Germany, basically. So if I sound better, that'll be why. Oh, is the Halo thing not live yet?
No, it's live. And George says, avowed info when Jez. Hellblade 2 is at the TGAs. Well, so, you know, the Hellblade 2 thing was obviously a topic, but since it was brought up already, do you all recall what me and Jez talked about last week? When Jez said he would, what did you say? He would give money to charity if Hellblade 2 didn't show up at the end of the year? Something like that, right?
I bet money. I mean, I'll donate to charity either way.
Right, but
saying that's kind of mean. It's like, oh well, I know it's not going to happen, so what? I'm not going to donate to charity now. But like, of course I'll donate to charity. But I was hoping someone would take that bet, and that they'd lose, and then they'll have to give some money to charity. But
now that Jeff Grubb has come out and said that Hellblade 2 is going to be VGAs, Jez, can you corroborate that? I mean, we were talking about it last week, like it was 100% going to happen. But we were just, you know, we weren't going to be the ones to ruin that. But now that it's out there, you know, do you got anything to add?
Well, you know, I said last week, I bet money that Hellblade shows up by the end of the year. You know, and that's because I've heard that it will show up by the end of the year. So, you know, and the obvious place is the Game Awards, right? It was at the Game Awards before. Maybe people expect to see it again at the Game Awards, but yeah, I think we'll see it at the Game Awards. I hadn't heard specifically the Game Awards. I just heard by the end of the year. So that could mean XO if they're going to do that again, but it doesn't look like they are. But the obvious one is the Game Awards, right? So yeah, I corroborate that.
Do you think?
But obviously plans can change.
Do you think something's gonna happen around the 20th anniversary? Maybe like a stream.
Halo?
Well, sure, Halo. That obviously makes a lot of sense, but I would imagine Xbox is gonna want to celebrate their 20th anniversary. It's a big milestone. I don't know. Like, I guess if you want to get the most eyes on for something, yeah, Hellblade 2 at the VGAs would be the go-to. But I don't know. Part of me wonders if they have stuff planned for the 20th, you know, and maybe drop a game
Maybe.
reveal or an update about something. Like, yeah, I'm sure we'll see some Halo stuff, of course, because that's about a month out. And I did say, like, I felt we would see a Halo Infinite campaign trailer on that day. But I just can't imagine, like, imagine a scenario or another timeline where COVID didn't exist and there was no lockdowns. Do you think they would have an event for the anniversary, Jez? Like, they would be, whether they would be in New York or be, you know, in LA or something. Like, it sort of seems like that's like a huge number milestone that you would want to celebrate with some sort of fan fest of a kind, right? But you can't do that now, so what do you do? So I've been going back and forth about that. I don't know. I mean, there's a part of me thinks that something will happen for the 20th, but I'm not sure like how big it'll be. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's hard to say. Things are so crazy with your COVIDs and all that stuff, but like I say, I've started getting invitations for in-person events again now. So like maybe times are changing and maybe things are getting back to normal. I don't know. But I also know Microsoft is among the more cautious corporations. They've let their staff permanently work from home if they want to. They've still got a lot of restrictions in place with stuff to do with that. So Microsoft is still taking it very seriously. And you know, even in countries with 90% vaccines, like the UK, we have like 90% vaccination rate for adults in the UK. The infections are still high. People are still dying every day. So I shouldn't laugh really, but you know, it's just kind of like it's still not over. You know, a lot of people are acting like it's over, but it's not. So it's just hard to say, isn't it? You can't say one way or the other. I certainly haven't heard that they're going to do something, but you would have to hope that they would do something about it, right? So we just have to wait and see, man. Have to wait and see.
Have to wait and see. Yeah. You know, if you guys are just tuning in now, thank you guys for being here on Friday. If you could do us a big favor, make sure you hit that like button and share this out. And if it's your first time on the channel, watching the podcast, make sure you hit the subscribe button. We would appreciate it. So, any other games you been playing this week that you want to talk about, Jez? I mean,
dude, I love that big team battle.
Oh, now you can someone clip that? Can we get a clip of Jez saying he literally just said I love Halo big team. All the shit that you gave me for years on this podcast. All the shit about Halo and the Lego and you know how much better gears and now the words have come out of your mouth exactly what I wanted to hear. Everybody in chat, you heard it as much as I did, right? Jez literally just said I love Halo. I could end the show right now and be completely happy. We could never have another episode of the Xbox 2, and I feel like my job here is finished, right?
Wow, that's heavy, dude. But like, I need to stop playing this, otherwise I'm just gonna get completely distracted from the show. But my God, the map and all the abilities, I just repulsed someone off a cliff. And then I saw another guy throw a huge barrel of like plasma stuff across the map, and it just exploded. And there's ragdolls flying everywhere. Man, they nailed the multiplayer so hard for Halo Infinite. I'm so happy for the team. Like, obviously, I'm really curious about the single player and stuff, but man, the multiplayer seems unlocked, right?
Yeah, I mean, I never had any doubt that the I mean, they killed it with the multiplayer in 5. I never had any doubt that the multiplayer for Infinite was going to be anything less than, like, really damn good. And it seems like they did nail that, and even more. Like, seeing the tools that you can use in the sandbox with, like, the cool, like, clips you see of people getting amazing kills with the grapple hook, or what you can do with the repulsor and all that stuff. Like, that is something that Halo's kind of missed. I know, like, Bungie and 343 have been toying around with like equipment and stuff, but I feel like maybe they finally nailed it with the set that they have now and all those things, right?
Yeah.
And it just, I don't know, it does kind of feel like the king is back. The king is returned. The return of the king, right? Especially in a
Prodigal.
year, yeah, especially in a year where Call of Duty might be in a downturn, and same thing with Battlefield, and you have people playing and loving the Halo Infinite big team battle, the Halo Infinite multiplayer stuff, and after the crap everybody gave 343, and you could say rightfully deserved, because like that demo, outside of how the game played, like, yeah, it didn't look good, and it spawned a meme, right? It was just like, man, and that game was supposed to launch it that year, and now it's launching this year, but it looks a lot better. So it's like I never questioned how good the Halo multiplayer is going to be. It's just,
Oh, dude, it's just so good. Like, I was just shooting a guy, and like my clip ran out just as his shield went down, and then I repulsed him into a wall, and he just splatted and died. Man, it's just the sandbox mayhem is the thing they've nailed, and you think like they've really got to nail that stuff because it's like sandbox single player too. I just wonder how all these features translate to the single player now at this point, because like I've been kind of the opinion, like, how do you do an open world game and not have like gear and levels and sort of reasons to travel around the map to get upgrades and stuff? Because that's typically the gameplay loop of an open world game. Like it has some sort of, it gives you some sort of reason to travel around. And I'm sorry, but I really hate the Ubisoft formula. I really hate the way Ubisoft is sort of, their formula for what open world is just awful. And I hate it. And I was scared that, Halo was going to be like that. Like where it was just like you travel around and you unlock towers and, it's just all this boring stuff and you go to outposts and every situation is the same. But I think like the sandbox mayhem stuff and the physics, the interaction of the physics with the weapons and the tools, like that's the kind of thing that's going to make it really fun, right? Like using the repulsor to blast enemies around, knock them off edges and stuff like that. Like a lot of the Ubisoft games don't really have those kind of tools. It's all, the combat's all very sort of like, I don't know, I kind of want to say basic. Like the combat in
you
all
just call
Ubisoft
Ubisoft
games
basic. You just call Ubisoft a basic bitch.
Yeah, their games are basic, man. They just feel basic, cookie cutter. They haven't done anything new since like Assassin's Creed Origins, really. Like Ubisoft really needs like new engines, new tools.
Do you find it a shame then that their open world stylings has basically morphed into or been adopted by literally almost everybody making like open world games at this point? Like when you see an open world game, you see the Ubisoft like formula stamped on it, right?
Yeah, it sucks, man. Like, and it's with that in mind that it casts a shadow over all open world games. Because now I'm like, I was thinking like, is Halo going to be like Ubisoft open world? I'm thinking is Dying Light 2 going to be like Ubisoft open world? I'm hoping and praying it won't be, because I'm just so damn tired of Ubisoft open world. And that doesn't bode well for like Ubisoft's coming slate of games, which all look like they're open world. So I forgot how good it felt to have like a game that had like physics as part of their combat system, basically. Like it's just so hilarious the way you can combine your tools in Halo Infinite. Like this whole segment's just turned into a Halo Infinite gush fest now.
I love it.
The repulsor is so much fun. The repulsor is hilariously fun. It reminds me of Overwatch. Like Overwatch. Overwatch got this. Like you've got to have if you're gonna have a game that you want people to play a lot, you have to inject the dynamics of gravity and velocity and being able to do knockbacks and pushbacks and stuff like that and ragdolls and stuff like that. And Overwatch got that. And I think a lot of the modern shooters often don't get that these days. So, man, Big Team Battle, like, man, they just killed it. What a game. What a game.
What a game.
I just hope the campaign... I hope the campaign, like, delivers. I really do now. But...
yeah, right now, yeah, this is honestly... I got goosebumps. This is my favorite section of an Xbox 2 podcast of all time, with Jez just talking lovingly and glowingly about Halo Infinite. I thought maybe this would have to happen after the game came out, but I'm sure Jez would have some qualms like, well, the campaign's all right or whatever, where it would kind of nullify what he's saying a little bit. But this is just pure Halo love right now, and I'm here for it. I could let you talk all the rest of the show. Just continue to play, and just anytime you want to bust in and say how amazing the game is and how much you love it, be my guest. And everybody in chat loves it as well. So
I will, man. I will.
Way of the Lao. I almost thought it said Way of the Halo. It says, hope you're both doing well. Love the show, Rand. I was hoping we could get a GoFundMe page to get voice acting lessons so you could do an impression of Jez saying, would you like a cup of tea, governor?
My God.
Would you like a cup of tea, governor?
Oh, man.
I have to do that a little bit better. Chris says, I'm working from home currently trying to convince myself to not just play the Halo flight. I'm sure a lot of people are probably in the same boat. Like, man, I want to play this, but I need to work, blah, 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 blah. Space Dovakin says, Assassin's Creed Black Flag was really good and fresh. Yeah, I mean, I think Assassin's Creed Black Flag was pretty damn awesome, but, like, ever since Origins, it's kind of Origins, and I loved Odyssey, but I couldn't really get into Valhalla very much.
Man, I just feel I don't get what's going on with Ubisoft, man. It's just like they're just like, okay, well, forget creativity, just build on top of this engine, reuse all these assets, blah 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 blah. Boom, got a game, package it, sell it. It feels like products of a factory line these days, but. Maybe Far Cry 6 will change it up a bit. I don't know. But that's Ubisoft these days. I think I've said on previous episodes that like a lot of publishers are sort of soul searching right now. Like where do we go from here? We live in a world where mobile games are suddenly becoming more important than our AAA games, and they don't know what to do. Like a lot of them are just sort of in this sort of stuck weird Twilight world. And I've just found an alien gopher in Big Team Battle's map. What's the map called? Do you know? I just found an alien gopher.
An alien gopher? That's interesting.
Yeah.
Dova says Jez is setting Rand up for Dova says Jez is setting Rand up for the ultimate troll. Yeah, I know, right? He's talking about how amazing it is, and when his review comes out, it'll be 2 out of 5 or something on Windows Central.
I'm not reviewing it. Brendan Lowry's reviewing it. Brendan is our Halo expert. He knows the lore inside out, upside down, and backwards. And he's also one of these guys who complains if things aren't perfect. So I don't expect that he'll go easy on Halo, like even though he loves it. But I don't know enough about the franchise to like review it in a way that will do justice for the fans. I'll definitely write about it though. I'll write like some thoughts on it and stuff like that for sure. But man, like, dude, these alien gophers, man. I shot one and then they all ran away and started digging underground. That's like really random. Details, man.
Details. Well, so I guess it's my turn to talk about what I've been playing, and the answer to that is for a second week in a row, absolutely nothing. I feel like I almost feel like a fraud. I feel like what a lot of I feel like one of those people that talks about games a lot but never plays, since there's so many of the I'm in the community. But I am reading, as you guys know, Wheel of Time. I'm doing a reread and then finally going to be able to finish the series. I haven't read the last 3 books. I'm on book 9, so we're getting there. And yeah, I'm definitely going to be playing Far Cry next week. I got Kenna to play. I also got Life is Strange to play. Like, I got so many games to play, it's absolutely ridiculous. But honestly, I just kind of been enjoying this little break, is what I call it. Little vacation, like just sitting there.
Gamecation.
Yeah, gamecation, not really playing anything. Just, not getting on my Xbox or my PlayStation, just sitting in my chair, just reading my book. Although I will be on Halo this weekend. I might even be on Halo tonight, playing the big team battle. You know what I mean? Because that is something I said I was looking forward to, and I am. Like, I really want to see how that plays. So I'll be playing Halo.
Do you want to play after the show?
After the show? Well, the big team battle ends after the show.
Oh, really?
The matchmaking is only on for 4 hours. I think and then they shut it
Oh,
off,
fine.
and then it's on again later tonight. So, I mean, we could play
Why don't they
tomorrow.
just leave it on?
I don't
They
know
should
why
just
they
leave it
don't.
on.
I don't know why they don't just leave it on. But yeah, it's on for like 4 hours, and I think it's on for the next couple hours here while we're doing the show, and then it's on again later at like 7 p.m. my time till 11 p.m. or something like that. So,
Fair enough.
yeah, call me a fraud, whatever, saying like, oh, Rand doesn't play any games. What is he doing? It's like, yeah, man, I'm just reading a book. Is that such a big deal? Can I not do that? I also watched Midnight Mass and Squid Game, Jez. I don't know if you saw my tweet about that.
I did, I think. I haven't watched either of those. Are they any good? Squid Game's like a battle royale thing.
You
right?
need to watch Squid Game. You absolutely need
Squid
to.
Game.
Well, you need to watch both of
I'll
them,
check it out.
but you need to watch Squid Game. I think you would really enjoy it. Apparently,
Is it that's Squid Game is like a battle royale thing, right? If I remember right.
yeah, it's sort of like that. Yeah, yeah, definitely, sort of like that. I think you would really like it. And Netflix was saying that it's a South Korean, a South Korean production or whatever. All right, I think Netflix was saying that it's on pace to become their most watched series ever, or something.
Wow.
Which is ridiculous, but I think you'd really like it, Jez. I want to know your thoughts on it. But anyways,
I am interested. It does look interesting. And also that midnight thing, what was it called? Midnight Mass?
Yeah.
A lot of people talking about that.
Yeah.
Spooky TV show, right?
Yeah, spooky TV
boys.
show. Dova says Randall
spooky
Frog
month,
19, the
man.
man
Spooky
with the million words read. Yes. Danero says how many achievements you get for reading them books. Unfortunately, I don't get any, but this is something that I needed to do. The TV show's coming in about a month from now, and I wanted to have the series finished because I wanted to refresh my mind about the whole book series before the show started. So, yeah, so if you guys want, you can call me a fraud for this week because I didn't play any games. But I think I think I deserve, a little vacation from this, and I don't always gotta be playing games all the time.
Yeah, sometimes I think you coined the term gaming funk.
No,
you just don't feel like playing anything.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I am right now, and I think it's because of what I'm actually doing instead. But I've definitely hit periods of time, and I don't know if anybody else in chat has ever experienced this, where you just kind of sit there and you just don't want to play anything. I've experienced pretty bad bouts of gaming funk. I think I had one that lasted 2 months or something where I just did not want to play anything whatsoever. And I would get on the Xbox or I'd get on the PlayStation, and I would sit there and I just couldn't bring myself to start anything. And I just wasn't excited to play anything. And I would have all these games to play, and I just would sit there and be like, I just don't care. I just don't have, I don't know, the drive to play something right now. Gaming burnout, as Ennis Fox said. Yeah, that's happened to me quite a bit. I'm not burned out right now. It's just that I just really want to, I'm just really into reading these books, and it's just I don't want to take any time away from not reading them, and it's just and there's nothing super important I want to play right now, anyways. I mean, it'd be a different story if Far Cry was available, or Halo actually was out, or Forza was out or something, but the games that are out right now, I'm just oh, I can come back to it at any point in time. I can play Life is Strange at any point in time. I could play Tales of Arise at any point in time, which is another thing I do have. So it's not I need to play it. I don't really get gaming FOMO. I know a lot of people do. A lot of people feel like they're missing out. I have Kenna. I bought Kenna, but I haven't played it yet. But I know a lot of people oh, I need to play this because I want to be a part of the conversation. But I don't feel that at all, really, ever. So it's yeah, well, I bought the game, and maybe I should have waited and saved my money. But I don't know. It comes on and then it leaves, and it is what it is. So next week, though, I probably have some games I'll be playing to talk about, and because I do want to try out Xbox Cloud Gaming, Jez, because they
it's on the Xbox now.
Yeah, they launched it on the console, and while I'm not somebody who's interested in cloud gaming on the PC or cloud gaming on my mobile phone, even though SubZX always says that that's the future, It doesn't interest me. However, I am kind of curious to see how it works on the console because I actually could see scenarios where I could use it. You know, like
Yeah, like skipping an installation, or you just
exactly.
want to try a game without installing it. Yeah,
Yeah,
I see that.
like
It's interesting.
what was one of the big announcements this week for Xbox was Marvel Avengers is on its way to Game Pass, right? A year after it came out, it has the Black Panther Wakanda campaign, which people say was really good. Now, I've already played Marvel Avengers when it first came out, and I enjoyed the campaign. I thought it was good for the most part, and I didn't like the multiplayer aspect of the game. I think we've talked about this on the show quite a bit.
Yeah.
But that game is a 140 gigabyte download. It's a huge, huge game, and I think it's available in cloud as well. So that could be something where you're not really sure, number one, that you want to download because of, whatever limits you may have on your your ISP, right? Like 140 gigs is a lot, especially if you have a data cap or whatever. Or maybe don't have a lot of space on your hard drive. So it's like, you know what? Maybe I'll just check it out streaming it for a little bit. And I believe it's like 1080p 60 that the stuff streams at, and see if you do like it enough to download it, maybe clear up some space. Or the other scenario of like, hey, your friends are all out there, Back for Blood comes out, right? And they're like, hey, jump into the game with us. And normally you'd have to download something and wait. But with this, you could download something, but I think you can just jump right in to start playing it. So like no install. So you can immediately be playing with your friends without the need of having to download anything. So you can just jump right in. I think that's kind of cool. And I think those two scenarios are actually intriguing enough where it would get me to actually try cloud gaming. Plus, I'm actually curious to see how a game plays natively versus how a game plays in the cloud. And if I could actually notice the difference enough where you're like, yeah, I can tell that this is just being streamed to me versus I'm playing it locally. Like there is that sort of intrigue to me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I get that. Are you like is your Xbox connected via Wi-Fi? Is it connected via Ethernet? Because all that stuff has an effect on the quality of the game.
Right now, my Xbox is connected Wi-Fi.
Right. So that probably is that 5 gigahertz. Do you know?
Yeah.
Because if you're on 2.4 gigahertz, it's a degraded experience. It is.
Well, I mean, I haven't tried it out yet, but yeah, I do have a 5 gigahertz router, as you like to say, right? So
router.
Yeah.
Got 5 gigahertz router.
So
boys.
I'll be able to. No, it's just something I wanted to try out and see. As ZX says in the chat, the future. We'll see if it's the future. You don't know, but that was one of the big announcements. Boo Wi-Fi. Well, I used to have it hooked up right to the Ethernet, but right now the way it's all set up, it's not really feasible. But I think I might change that in the future. But hey, it's the future, right? Though, how are most people going to play this, man? Wi-Fi or 5G or whatever. So, Face, he says, Marvel's Avengers is 94 gigs on the PS5, smaller file size. Xbox needs to get working on the BC pack. I did notice that it was a lot smaller size than the PlayStation. And honestly, 140 gigabytes for a game it's kind of ridiculous. Wouldn't you agree, Jez? I mean, that's just like too much.
Which game is that? Sorry,
Marvel's Avengers is 140 gigabytes on the Series X.
What is that? Textures or what? That's crazy.
I don't know, but it's huge. And like Face says, it's only 94 gigs on the PS5, so it's a lot smaller. It's 50 gigs smaller, right?
People brought this up last week, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Like we talked about like theorizing like Sony's SSDs better at decompression, so maybe they can compress the files more or whatever. I have no idea, but yeah, it's a lot of space. Storage is going to be an issue this gen for sure. But
Shady says it's actually 125 on the Series X. I've seen pictures floating around of people downloading it. It says 140, but I deleted it after I finished it last year, so I do want to play the Wakanda campaign because I actually hear it's pretty good, and I did enjoy the campaign the first time I went through it, outside of the whole multiplayer stuff. But it's interesting, though, because it definitely seemed like Microsoft's about to ramp up their whole Game Pass for the rest of the year, because Marvel Avengers is out, right? And it's... I would say, do you think there's anything to it, Jez? Like, we remember when we saw those Resident Evil contracts, the rumored Resident Evil 8 Village contracts that talked about Game Pass, or how they couldn't put their game into any service until a year later. And then here you have Marvel Avengers literally launching like after, like, it's the year anniversary, and it's finally immediately coming to Xbox when that game was co-marketed by PlayStation. So that kind of leads credence to at least that contract that Sony does have a sort of, hey, if we're marketing with you, then you're not allowed to put your game into a competing subscription service for at least a year, right? Seems like that's almost true at this point. Would you agree with that?
I'd agree with that. And also Resident Evil Village is a good, pickup for Spooky Month, because it is now Spooky Month, as you all know.
It is.
So putting Resident Evil into Game Pass straight away would be a good Spooky Month game to do. But we just, have to wait and see, I guess. I certainly haven't heard anything on that side of things.
Well, Resident Evil Village wouldn't necessarily come to Game Pass until next year at some point in time, but it was not only Marvel Avengers, but they added Scarlet Nexus, because you said you've been playing it. You've been playing it. And that game just came out 3 months ago. So it's fairly new. Do you like the game, though, Jez? You didn't really say if you like... You talked about like how it plays.
I feel like I'd prefer the combat system to Tales of Arise. If someone's sitting there on the fence now thinking, shall I buy Tales of Arise or just play Scarlet Nexus on Game Pass? I think I don't know. I really didn't like Tales of Arise's gameplay system. It's sort of Final Fantasy 15-esque, kind of plays itself almost. So I wasn't really a huge fan of that. But Scarlet Nexus has a really tight combat system. It's more hack and slash. Obviously, this is a different genre as well, which, but it's still very anime, and it feels like it's on the same engine as Tales of Arise. They've got like these sort of manga-esque comic book cutscenes, which are, seem a bit low budget and stuff like that. But the story seems interesting enough to hold your interest, shall we say? And it's a pretty wild game with crazy enemy designs. Like you fight like vases of roses with legs and shit like that. It's a very strange game. I don't really have a clue what's going on in it. But that's par for the course with Japanese games. But I enjoyed the combat. The combat system's really cool. Like you can like pick up objects in the environment, throw them around like telekinesis and stuff. I like that, and it flows really well. Combat system's awesome. I mean, I haven't really played it enough to describe it beyond that. But I think if like people like Nier or Automata, it's like you'll probably enjoy Scarlet Nexus, at least as a sort of hold me over maybe. But yeah, I'd definitely check it out if you're into those kind of games.
Yeah. John B says Xbox so consumer friendly, not forcing you to buy a new console. You can just play new generation games on older consoles through the cloud. That's definitely pretty damn cool that someone with an Xbox One or One X can play these next generation games on their systems, because as I think Phil even talked about yesterday or the day before, console supply is going to be an issue going all the way into 2022 and maybe even longer.
Yeah, it is.
And I think you tweeted it out that you were wondering how everything would be playing out if you could just load up Amazon and buy a console on demand, right? Like, how do you imagine this Xbox Series X PS5 gen would be stacking up if everybody can just buy the console, at a whim?
I feel like with COVID and the pandemic, people have like taken a bigger interest in gaming, or like renewed interest in gaming. So I feel like if there was a pandemic and no semiconductor shortage, I feel like the consoles would be selling better. A lot of people were disagreeing with me on that and saying like, no, they wouldn't. But I've seen our sales figures, internally, because we, Windows Central, we have Amazon links on a lot of our articles, and I see the click-through rates on those links, and like the amount of interest in the next-gen consoles is still really, really high. And people click the links, and then they see nothing on the other end because there's no stock. So, and people say, no, it's just scarcity driving demand. I'm like, what? that doesn't make any sense whatsoever. I'm sure that that's like maybe potentially an aspect, because it's keeping the scarcity is keeping the consoles in the news cycle to some degree. But I feel like a lot of those people would be converting. They'd be buying the consoles, not just reading about them. So I do feel like the consoles would be selling better if the semiconductor shortage wasn't in the situation it's in. I also feel like Xbox Game Pass too might be doing better, because we'd have more cloud servers, because the semiconductor shortage affects that as well. We might have xCloud in India, which is going to be a very, very big market for xCloud. Microsoft is they haven't said when it's coming to India, but when it does come to India, it's probably going to be a bigger deal than a lot of people realize. Semiconductor shortage is affecting that as well, because they don't have good infrastructure in some countries like India. So like, it's not like there's more work involved with getting xCloud into a country like India, because Microsoft doesn't have the same infrastructure that it has in the US or UK. Like, it's one of those sort of emerging markets for Microsoft and stuff like that, and Southeast Asia as well to some degree. That's why I think only yesterday did they turn on xCloud in Australia and Japan and stuff like that. I feel like the xCloud rollout would have been faster as well. So it's definitely constrained the business. Like, I don't see how anyone can suggest that it hasn't constrained the business. It's constrained all sorts of businesses, cars. It's constrained, PCs, laptops, tablets, phones, pretty much anything with a chip in it. So, it's it is interesting to think about, but no one's got a crystal ball. No one can know what would be going on if things were different. We just have to proceed as they are, unfortunately. Although a lot of people do live in a fantasy world these days.
I think it sucks, to be honest with you. I see it in some of the comments I get on my YouTube channel and on some tweets, that I think people are really pissed off that they can't just easily buy any of these systems. Like, I understand at launch is always going to be, hey, we only have so many, but usually by 6 months later or something, there's stock and you can just get it. And now you're talking about supply is going to be an issue all the way into next year and potentially even longer. I think some people just get frustrated. Like, they see tweets from Wario64 or like, hey, the Microsoft Store, like, people will tweet like, Microsoft Store Series X is unavailable, right? And they go there and it's out of stock. They line up for the PlayStation 5 thing and they're not able to get one through the queue. And everybody's talking about the new consoles, but then you can't get one. I see how that can become incredibly frustrating, to the point where you don't want to know about anything next gen related because you can't get the console. So I really do feel for those people, because if I was in that situation, I don't know what I would do. If I'd be sitting there, out of all my friends, the only one still playing on the Xbox One or the One X, and everybody else is on the Series X, I'm sure I would feel a certain way, wouldn't you, Jez?
Yeah, I mean, if I had any friends, yeah.
Well,
I'm
you
sure
got many. Look how many people are in here listening to the podcast. They're your friends, Jez. Come on. But no,
I've never been affected by a console shortage. Like, I've sort of like. Well, I suppose in a way, I was trying to get an Xbox Series X for Germany, and I missed a couple of sales attempts when I was trying to get it, and I couldn't get one. And someone, luckily, well, I suppose I'm lucky in a way, because like someone reached out on Twitter and said they'd sell me their Xbox Series X, and I managed to get one that way, but without having to go through a scalper or anything. So I was lucky that way, but. I don't remember like ever having an issue getting a PlayStation 1 or PS2 or N64 or any of these like other consoles. It always felt like there was always stock available and stuff like that. So it's unprecedented, I mean, when's the last time we had a global pandemic? Not in living memory, I can tell you that much. When was the whole Spanish flu thing? I don't know, 1916 or something like that?
1915,
yeah,
maybe,
something
right
like
around
that.
there.
Yeah, you're the podcast historian,
Yeah.
Mr. Randall book reading history guy.
So, interesting question here. I figure we gotta address it. George says, "So where were all the Xbox acquisitions you hyped and heard before pre E3? Did they disappear, or are we to expect none regarding or this year? All in on gaming in the only year without new studios." Um.
Hmm,
So I mean,
interesting.
yeah, before E3 there was a lot of hype about acquisitions, and I remember we did a show right before E3. It was me and you. It was Lord Cognito of ILP. It was Cold Eastwood, and it was Special Nick of Xbox Era. And you do recall that podcast, Jez? Because that was the podcast where like suddenly everybody thought Xbox was going to acquire like 6 studios at E3. You remember? It was Avalanche. It was
I
Crytek.
can't even remember last week, mate.
It was IO Interactive. It was Rocksteady. It was NetherRealm. Do you remember that? And everybody was going crazy.
Yeah, there was a lot of rumors.
And I think the only one I thought that was happening was Avalanche, but I wasn't the only one. Like, you thought Avalanche was happening as well.
Yeah.
But hey, obviously the information was wrong. So it's like, what can you really do about it? But I apologize for getting everybody hyped up.
I never actually heard that Avalanche was going to be acquired. I just sort of like there was all just the same rumors floating around, and like none of my usual sources said Avalanche had been acquired. But it just sort of made sense because they're working on a service game because of what I know about Contraband, which isn't even out there. So Contraband is a service game. It's kind of like Sea of Thieves. It's got a long-term plan. It's got like a lot of I don't know what you call it. There's a lot of there's going to be DLC. It's multiplayer. It just made kind of sense. Just made sense that it would be Avalanche that they would acquire. The company that owns Avalanche isn't typically a game studio. It's like a film company and stuff like that. So it just made a lot of sense to me. And Avalanche they haven't really had a banger for a long time. Like Rage 2 was a flop. Mad Max was a flop. That Generation Zero, whatever, was a hardcore flop. And I felt like, well, Microsoft's like going to buy another service type game and they've got a big plan for this one, then it kind of makes sense. Like, and so I started believing some of the rumors that weren't from my typical sources that maybe they would buy Avalanche because it made a lot of sense to me. But I guess it just didn't happen for whatever reason. But I still think it could happen. Like if kind of like how Sony worked with Insomniac on Spider-Bro, and then they were like, well, it did really well, let's acquire them, sort of thing. And Microsoft has worked with other studios in the past, like, Undead Labs and State of Decay 2 did really well, in its long tail at least, with like lots of updates and, a dedicated community constantly playing the game. So they bought Undead Labs and stuff like that. And I feel like if Contraband and they execute the plan for Contraband well, and it does really well, I think Microsoft would be like, you know what, let's buy this company out, But also, it's also got to make sense for everyone involved. It's got to be the right price for the company that owns them now, because obviously they want a return on their investment. It's got to be like the right, Avalanche has got to be happy with it too. Maybe they end up hating working with Microsoft. Maybe it's a total nightmare working with Microsoft for them or something. I don't know. Maybe they don't want to be acquired. So maybe it's sort of like this is like a test case scenario where like they decide if they can work together and stuff like that. Similarly to how Sony did that with, to some degree with Blue Point and Demon Souls remake and stuff like that.
Which they just acquired. Who they just acquired.
Yes,
Was
they
yesterday?
just acquired. So
or 2 days ago.
Yeah, it was yesterday. Yeah, although there was rumors.
Sony themselves like leaked it months ago, So
yeah, that's hilarious. But yeah, it's interesting. Someone in the chat says Peter420 says, "Is it fair that Contraband is like Ghost Recon Wildlands, Control Cartel's live service, third-person expansion, etc.?" It's not like Ghost Recon Wildlands because it has more of an. From what I understand. It has. I mean, this could change in development, but like I've seen documents that suggest that it's not. It doesn't have necessarily a big emphasis on shooting, although there will be shooting in it. It's more about driving and vehicular combat. Although there is shooting, we're kind of like Rage and Mad Max had shooting, but they also had really good vehicular combat. systems. So it's all about smuggling runs. It's all about getting contraband and other illicit stuff, and then smuggling it across this fictional island. Set in a sort of Southeast Asia fictional island Pacific sort of area where there's a dictator in power, and you drive around with your friends, planning heists, stealing stuff, and then executing. So it almost sounds like Grand Theft Auto Online. It's in some vein maybe, but there will be shooting, there will be sandbox mayhem, there will be explosions, there's going to be gadgets, there's going to be, hijacking vehicles and all sorts of crazy mayhem. It just sounds like a sandbox game. I don't think Ghost Recon's a good comparison, because I don't think it's going to be tactical or stealthy or anything like that. It's all going to be all about big explosions and car chasing and all that kind of stuff. So that's Contraband. And also I've read that it has a 10-year plan behind it. It's got like a really long, they're planning to update the game for a long time with expansion, story content, all that sort of stuff. Oh, and you can play it solo as well. There is going to be a sizable solo campaign, I believe, if I remember correctly from the documents. So it's a pretty ambitious game by the sounds of it, I don't know what the art style's like. I don't know if it's going to be like full-blown photorealism. I kind of doubt it. I doubt that it's going to be photorealistic, but who knows? I haven't actually seen what it looks like. I've just sort of read about it. But I do feel like if Contraband has an initial kick and starts doing well, and sort of gradually grows a player base, similar to like how Sea of Thieves did, and now like they're looking at games like Grand Theft Auto Online, which are like a lot of vehicular-based mayhem and stuff like that. If it does well, I can totally see them buying that studio. I really can. But it has to be right for everyone involved at the end of the day. But we'll just have to wait and see.
Yeah, it's I think what Jeff Grubb said was 100% correct. Recently, where Xbox sort of feels content right now with what they have. Not saying that they aren't looking, because they always are, but you talk about like organic growth, right? Or organic acquisitions, and you look at who Microsoft is currently partnered with for a lot of their games. Even though it's not announced yet, we know that they're working with IO Interactive on Project Dragon. Crystal Dynamics is working with Initiative on Perfect Dark. Avalanche is making Project Typhoon, aka Contraband, right? And I do feel that those are like how those games go and how the relationship evolves, whether it's extremely well or maybe it's like, hey, Avalanche keeps on slipping milestones, or maybe they're a little tough to work with. We don't want to do this, but I kind of feel like those are essentially tryouts for an acquisition, in the same way Sony worked with Blue Point for years on games until they were like, you know what, we feel comfortable with the studio that they can help us, and it's worth us to acquire them for our vision. Same thing with like Housemarque studios that Sony worked with for a long time. And with, Daryl Gallagher coming from Crystal Dynamics, feeling comfortable with those guys, hiring them for Perfect Dark. Like, I honestly feel like the end scenario for this is going to be Xbox just buys Crystal Dynamics from Square Enix alongside the Tomb Raider IP. And hell, you know what? Package in the Hitman IP as well and acquire IO Interactive, and boom, you give the Hitman IP to IO, and then you have the Crystal Dynamics IP, or Crystal Dynamics working on Perfect Dark and Tomb Raider, and you're good to go. I mean, maybe that's not like a sexy thing, because after Bethesda, what is sexy, right? After Bethesda, everybody's expectations are honestly through the roof. Like, Take-Two, which we're going to be talking about in a minute, about what the Take-Two guys said about Game Pass, but like, there's legitimate people out there that thought the Take-Two thing is happening. Not only that it's happening, that it already happened because, of what he said about the Game Pass thing, and it's like, so when you go from a huge publisher like Bethesda, and your next acquisition is maybe going to be of the smaller kind of an individual studio, which you talked about before, how Xbox is talking to maybe smaller partners, it doesn't feel as significant or as big, right? But getting Crystal Dynamics would be, I think, pretty significant. maybe Square wants to get rid of their whole Western division and just like, hey, you want Square Enix and Eidos Montreal? Take them. They're yours. We'll even give you the Tomb Raider IP. Just give us some money. Like, we don't know what we're doing here. And that would be incredible. But, like, I think everybody's so laser focused on publishers because of the whole Bethesda thing that I think any sort of smaller acquisition, people would just sort of not be impressed by, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Like, if they announced they acquired Crystal Dynamics, people would be like, who cares? It's not Bethesda level, right? Because you had all these people talking about a Bethesda level acquisition where it seems like the only way people are going to be happy is if Microsoft acquires, I don't know, EA or Take-Two or all of Square Enix or Capcom or any of these other larger publishers. But, I mean,
Apple.
Bethesda was kind of like right time, right place sort of thing. And they had that perfect working relationship with Xbox to begin with. Not everybody has that. And not everybody's looking to sell either. Some might be looking to sell, but others might not. I feel like whenever they do make the Xbox acquisition for another studio at some point, people might be disappointed because it isn't going to be, Take-Two, right? And then you even have people like sharing photos of Phil wearing the blue jacket. Do you see that, Jez, of Phil wearing the blue jacket with the black shirt? And then people are like, oh, that's a signal for Take-Two because Take-Two's logo is blue and black. So it's like, oh, this.
I saw some people sent me a DM with there was a lady at the Tokyo Game Show wearing a pink jacket, and then Bandai Namco announced their new terrible pink logo. Have you seen that logo?
Yeah,
it's just like a basic font with a pink outline.
I think anybody.
And people say, "Oh my god, that's a signal."
Yeah.
Is that a coincidence? Bandai Namco? Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's fun. It's fun in games at the end of the day, but. They'll acquire more. They'll acquire studios that like make a lot of sense. I can see them doing defensive acquisitions, like to stop another. They might try and stop Sony getting a Capcom or or getting one of these other big studios. Because like if Sony like acquired Capcom, for example, they'd lose like a lot of big franchises, and I don't think Microsoft wants to be in that situation, especially with Japanese games, because like even now it's. The situation with Japanese games is not great. And actually, so I think Phil literally tweeted about that this week. They're saying that they're constantly, or they said in an interview or something, they're constantly working to get Japanese games.
They're trying to get more and more Japanese support. And I think even Sarah Bond said there's something like 200 developers they're working with over in Japan, ID at Xbox type stuff. And that's what they need to do. They need to like go to Japan and talk to these developers to make them want to put their games on Xbox. So, but you're right, a Capcom acquisition by PlayStation wouldn't be good for Xbox over there or at all, period, because they do make some really good games. So, I don't know, people, and I understand, like, because I have people DM me and be like, well, when is the next Xbox acquisition? Sony's just out here making Xbox look like fools. Because, they acquired Bluepoint, which is a great acquisition for them. Supposedly they're working on a new game. Who knows if they're doing another remake of some kind. But it's just a studio that Sony felt comfortable with. And that's the sort of thing that I think Xbox is trying to look at with Crystal Dynamics and, IO Interactive and Avalanche. And maybe some of the other partners they're working with that we don't know of yet. So
I think for me, Avalanche, if Contraband is good, Avalanche makes a lot of sense. I wouldn't even wait for Dragon. I'd lock IO Interactive down ASAP. But like that whole sort of that idea of that said of buying Square Enix's entire Western division, where you get like the Hitman IP, and you get like Crystal Dynamics, and you get like maybe Deus Ex, and maybe you get Eidos and all these other stuff.
Oh, can you imagine if they bought Deus Ex and gave it to Arcane? Ooh,
that'd be so cool. But that's the kind of thing that Microsoft wants to do. They want to line all that stuff up and have it like make a lot of sense and that sort of stuff. So I can see that kind of deal happening. That's like the kind of deal that would make a lot of sense, get a lot of people excited, has a load of potential. Hitman is like, it's a long tail game. It's the kind of game Microsoft wants to have, a niche game that makes a lot of sense as a long tail sort of service. And the way IO made Hitman into a service-ish game without compromising the like, I don't know, the identity of Hitman. That is incredible feat, actually, when you think about it. Like a lot of companies who they try to turn their IP into service games, they just fail really badly. And we see this time and time again with companies that are like, oh god, we need to be a service company now. Make Metal Gear Survive. Let's make a Metal Gear service game, and it comes out and it's just complete garbage and underthought, and they just total fail at it and stuff. But the IO Interactive devs have shown that they get it. They get what the fans want at the same time as sort of being able to retain a game and franchise's identity. And I think that's a rare skill, and a skill that I think Microsoft would like to have in its wheelhouse. And I can see them gunning for that studio. I don't think they should wait though. I don't think they should wait, because there's a lot of people who want studios right now, and if they were to lose IO Interactive right in the middle of the development of Project Dragon, and then this other studio starts pulling them in different directions, I don't think that's a good thing, because like Project Dragon hasn't even been announced yet. It's not even been teased yet. Like, just some asshole blogger leaked it. So man, them asshole bloggers, man. But it'd suck if that got pulled out from underneath them, like in mid-development. But maybe the talks are ongoing. Maybe they want to lock down Hitman first, because there's that whole issue. Like, who bloody owns the Hitman IP? Because they literally announced, oh, we own the Hitman IP now. But then it sort of emerged that, oh, well, actually they don't. Square Enix still own the Hitman IP. Like, I think like IO Interactive own exclusive rights to develop games in the Hitman universe or something.
Yeah, because I know Square's doing a Hitman game on the phone.
And they're doing a bunch of Hitman mobile games.
Yeah, and if you look at like the trademark, it does still stay Square. But yeah, it's just people hype stuff up. Like, I'm guilty of it as much as anybody in the Xbox YouTuber community or anybody in the community, right? Sometimes I'll try to let people down or crush their dreams, so to speak, as people say that. Like, Rand just crushes people's dreams because people's expectations get so wildly out of, like, they think certain things, and I'll be like one to be like, this isn't happening and this isn't true. But yeah, I definitely was swept up in the pre-E3 hype. I thought Avalanche was for sure happening. I mean, I was told by a couple people that it was a done deal, and I trusted them, and it didn't happen. And that's what I get for trusting them and then speaking my mouth about it publicly. So I've learned my lesson on that, to be a little bit more cautious about what I say. But yeah, it's an ongoing thing, man. All these things take forever to work out, so it'll happen in its own due time. Lucius in the super chat says, the Series X's best feature is quick resume. I hate how many new games don't support this feature. How do you guys feel about it? I don't actually use quick resume that much, because a lot of the games I do play, like, right away, they don't support it. And honestly, I usually only play one game at a time. So what I'll do is I'll leave it suspended, so when I start up my console the next day, I can just immediately get into the game right away. But I am not somebody who jumps around to 15 different games. So it's not that big of a thing for me. But it might be for Jez, because I know Jez plays a ton of different games all the time.
Well, it's funny. I was actually like, I booted my Xbox up the other day. Well, today. The other day? Today. And I noticed that Dragon Quest 11 is still in my quick resume, even though I haven't played it for months. Oh, well, maybe weeks is probably a better word. But I was like, man, that's some good quick resuming right there. So it's a cool feature when it works, but like people are saying, it's a lot of devs don't support it. I think as we get deeper into the gen and Microsoft pivots more and more devs to game core development, which is like a new set of APIs and stuff like that, maybe it'll be used more often because it'll be more of a standard feature in the toolkit. You have to remember, a huge amount of the games that we play today on an Xbox Series X aren't even made for Xbox Series X. They're made for PlayStation 4 and Xbox One, and they just get sort of ported with some features, So there's a lot of issues when it comes to that, when it comes to next gen features like quick resume, like ray tracing and stuff, because we are oftentimes just playing a bolted on version of an Xbox One game when it comes to this stuff. I don't know if you saw today, Rand, but CD Projekt Red warned investors to lower their expectations of the next-gen versions of Cyberpunk.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh. Because again, Cyberpunk 2077, it won't necessarily be a native version of Cyberpunk. It's just going to be an Xbox One version with bolted-on features, or maybe some more bolted-on features than it already has, because it already has some Xbox Series X enhancements, I believe. But they warned investors not to expect too much, because again, it's not a true next-gen game. It's just going to be sort of like a Xbox One game with stuff bolted onto it. And that happens in the middle of the gen. A lot of people have forgotten this. If you go back to the Xbox 360 and look at games that launched on the Xbox 360, they look like trash. They look like total trash. And then you get to like Halo 4, which launched on the Xbox 360, and it holds up, man. Like Halo 4's graphics hold up today. Like it was really impressive when it launched. And there are like AAA studios today who can't even get to that level of quality. So tool sets evolve. They get more widely used. The tools get better documentation. Microsoft just spends more money training devs. You got things like GDC and other events where devs can learn some of the features and nuances and stuff like that. So the way games look will evolve over the course of the gen. But we're only a year in. We're not even a year in yet. We're like how many months? We're like 11 months. We're almost a year in. So wow.
Yeah.
Big team battle is sick, man. It is.
You love it.
Absolutely sick. I'm really bad at it though. Like it's hard to change my tactical mentality. I have to stop running out into the open a bit more. Like I'm playing, like trying to play it like it's Battlefield. Like you have to be a lot more tactical, I feel like, in Halo than in some of these other games. Would you say that's fair? That's fair, Rand?
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Yeah. I just threw a grenade across the map and it came up with Hail Mary. Because I killed someone by throwing a grenade across the map. I got say what again?
Well, so how so can we get an announcer voice pack with Jez saying you could do
Team
double
Slayer.
kill, triple kill, Kilimanjaro,
multi-kill, Kilimanjaro,
Killtrocity,
multi-kill, Killtrocity.
There we go. I want to install the Jez.
Team Slayer.
I want to install the Jez voice pack for Halo Infinite.
Jez voice pack? Yeah. I'll do it, man. Microsoft, hit me up.
Mm-hmm.
Team Slayer.
Big team battle.
Big team battle.
Artemis says, "Hey, Rand Jez, have you heard anything about these games that the 200 Japanese devs are making for Game Pass?" I have not, but I think a couple of Japanese games did launch on Game Pass like just the other day. So, like Astria Ascending, and I forget the name of a couple of the other ones. But it's clear to me that Microsoft wants to get as much Japanese support as possible. They're trying their best, and they had their TGS showing, and one of the things that they talked about was Game Pass, and I think xCloud also launched in Japan finally. So they got like xCloud coming to Australia, Japan, Mexico, and I think another country, although off the top of my head I don't know which one. What else did they talk about? Oh yeah, Japan's the fastest growing market for Xbox as well. Which
that's
it's
not saying much.
Well, we've seen the sales chart and it's actually doing a lot better than the Xbox One. But people can make fun of it because it's like, hey, if you sell one console one week and two consoles the next week, it's 100%, right? And Xbox has a lot of room for growth in Japan, so it's cool to see that it is growing there. And I don't know how xCloud is going to take shape in that country because Japan is very mobile first. So maybe with xCloud and all those Game Pass titles being there, maybe Xbox, maybe it's like, well, we don't need the console. We just play on our phone and play all this stuff on the phone, and Xbox becomes more of an actual thing there. But we'll have to wait and see. But I don't know. It's cool to see though that Phil basically was like, he said he promised that he was going to get more Japanese support, and you've definitely seen that. Because a lot of people say Phil lies all the time, right? He's lying about this and lying about that and lying about that. But, like, if you paid attention to the things that he said he was going to do, like, he's done exactly what he said he would do. Like, fix the hardware. Hardware's fixed. Build first party. Building the first party. The biggest first party out of anybody, right? Trying to fix like the quality of Xbox games, and I mean that's in the works. You saw Psychonauts 2 and Forza, and you assume Forza is going to be rated highly. PC support, all these things that he said he wanted to do, which he also said would take time, have all come to fruition. So,
just takes time.
Yeah, it takes time to.
All this stuff just takes time.
Yeah, but I mean, essentially, the only thing you could really say is the whole VR thing. Like, hey, Xbox One X is gonna have VR premium VR experiences, and well, we all know how that happened. But I think
VR sucks.
Yeah, for the most part, like everything he said he was going to do, he's done. I mean, it's just I think for some people maybe it's taken a little bit too long for their likings, but that's sort of the way it is.
Microsoft is a slow boy. They're a slow boy. That's the problem with these big companies, man. They're slow. They're really slow. Because there's a lot of moving parts that have to line up to get things going. And that's why, like I always say, one of the best things, or the best thing Phil Spencer did, was get Xbox promoted to the leadership table. Because now they're at the leadership table, they have way more autonomy than they ever did under Terry Myerson when they were part of the Windows thing. And I think Satya Nadella even did an interview this week where he admitted Xbox was a side project. It was never core to the Microsoft mission. But now Microsoft is a cloud company. There is no platform on earth that has more growth potential in the cloud than gaming, especially with consumers. So, it's because it's sort of like the perfect storm of combined stuff lined up to make sure that we ended up in this situation where Xbox is finally getting the due it deserves. Like, and Xbox fans are getting what they deserve. Mm-hmm. It took us a long time to get it, but now we're here, and we have cause to celebrate. Halo Infinite feels like a goddamn masterpiece. It feels like it could be a masterpiece. If the campaign lines up, then with how good the multiplayer feels, then my God, they're gonna have like maybe a 90 plus Metacritic game on their hands. Who knows?
Whoa.
When's the last time? When's the last time we had a 90 Metacritic Halo? It's been quite a while.
Halo Reach, probably. I would guess.
Yeah. So.
Well, it's not even like Halo 5 is not even it's not even rated that low. Halo 5 is like an 85. It's like on par with most PlayStation exclusives. And when you say that, people get upset. But it's like, yeah, you look at it, it's like 2 points lower than Spider-Man. It's actually like, the same as Ghost of Tsushima or whatever. Sure, it may not be as high as God of War or Last of Us Part 2 or whatever, but it's right there. You mean
God of War, the greatest game ever made?
Well, yeah, we're going to talk about that in a minute. The Darge Knight says, hey, Jez, really enjoying your show with Randall historically incorrect. Rule Britannia. Just kidding, Rand. Yite. Thank you, Darge, for being here. Too bad you weren't here listening last week when we talked about how you guys lost the war.
Rule Britannia, baby.
Yeah, Wolf Assassin, being a member for 4 months. He says, hope everyone's having a good day today. Love you, Rand and Jez, and we love you. Supernova says, Jez, how do you say router? Say it one more time for the people.
Router.
There you
Router,
go.
mate. Router.
Lucas says, do you think they will implement changes to clip editing and sharing tools? This should have been resolved by now. I don't know if you saw that, Jez, but Xbox is partnering with Metal.
Metal?
Yeah, did you see that?
Metal?
No, Metal. It's like a service that. It's a service that it's like you link your account and all your Xbox clips and screenshots. You can access from Metal. It's like an app, and then you can like edit everything and share it and stuff. Did you see that announcement?
I didn't. Is it called Metal?
Well, just look at Phil Spencer's recent retweets. You'll see it. Yeah, Medal, MEDAL, like metal, like and then like underscore.
Oh, Medal, like Medal of Honor.
Yeah, underscore TV.
I
or whatever.
did not see that.
Yeah,
that's interesting because they also just purchased a cloud-based video editing company called Clipchamp, and then suggested they were going to add it to Office 365. So I was theorizing that maybe Clipchamp will become the video editing suite for Xbox because it's all web-based and they can, they edit one app, it edits all the apps and whatever. But the Xbox doesn't have enough RAM to use Clipchamp right now unless they do like a slimmed down version of it. So I tried using Clipchamp recently and it just did not work very well because of the amount of RAM you need to run that kind of app. But apps don't get a lot of RAM allocation on Xbox Series X because you want those resources available for games and suspending games and stuff like that. So apps don't run that good on Xbox. But I think that's part of the problem, is that video editing tools are really simplistic on Xbox because of the way the operating system's been designed. Like, there's advantages to it and there's disadvantages to it. Disadvantage is that the apps are not very good because they've got really strict restrictions on them when it comes to resource allocation. But the flip side of that is that we get things like quick resume and which work great in theory and stuff like that. So
well, as to what
I'll check that medal thing.
As to what he was asking, it's basically like people want the game DVR to be better. People want sharing to be better on the console, right? And seeing them kind of
priority for them.
See, I don't think it's a priority. Well, I've been told it was
it's
I've been told conflicting things.
It's kind of like, okay, so I'll tell you, Rand. Like, what happened was they were expecting Apple to let xCloud onto the iPad and whatever. They were expecting Apple to do that.
Onto iOS?
Apple said, onto iOS. Apple said no, because we're anti-competitor, anti-consumer, and we don't want Xbox to have any nice stuff from our platform. We want to gouge developers 30% for everything, and we hate everyone because that's Apple. That's what we do. We hate everyone. So that's that's my editorialized take on what happened with Apple. They blocked xCloud on Xbox. So Microsoft had to pivot all of its dev resources to xCloud on the web because that really screwed with their plans for growth. Apple unexpectedly deciding they didn't want to have competition on their app store, although I would argue that it's not unexpected because that's Apple for you. Terrible company that no one should ever use. Everyone quit Apple right now. But so they had to pivot a lot of their dev resources to the web version of xCloud, which knocked some things back. But now we have the web version of xCloud and all the basic version of it. There's still work that needs to be done there to make it as good as the app versions of it and stuff. I tried it recently on my Surface Pro X, and I found that I had issues with the web version that I just didn't have with the app version. So it's not perfect. There are some issues, and that still need to be worked out. But I think now they've got that version up and running, it frees up dev resources for things like the next thing on their agenda, which is, from what I understand, sorting out the clips and the sharing tools and the video editing tools, because there is loads of problems with it. It really sucks when you upload a HDR screenshot to OneDrive and it's just broken. It's washed out and looks terrible and stuff like that. And it really sucks when you want to edit a clip and you can't because there's no tools on Xbox except for trimming. You can't do any of the cool stuff like slowing, slow motion, or do any of those cool video editing effects, which are just basically standard on an Android phone these days. There's no tools to do any of that cool stuff. And you'd think in the era of video sharing, with your TikToks and your Instagrams and all those cool hip things you crazy kids use these days, that we would have good tools for this kind of thing, because that's how a lot of people discover games nowadays. It's through memery and social media and sharing and stuff like that. And the fact that Xbox doesn't have a good platform in place for this is short-sighted, to say the least. So I do think they're going to be working on this now. They've got xCloud up on the web, and but who knows? We'll have to wait and see for the next big problem. Maybe there'll be another problem that'll change development and have to pivot resources in another direction. It's all fun and games when it comes to allocating resources, unfortunately. But that's that. I really want them to do something with the clip stuff, because, like I said, it's how people discover games these days. I can write a 1,000,000-word article saying how good a game is, but if I post a clip on Twitter saying check out this hilarious clip of 360 no scope thing, that gets shared a million times, and it's gonna advertise a game way more than a web article will. So I feel like Microsoft has dropped the ball on that a little bit from a viral marketing perspective, and hopefully they sort something out, because I think they're missing the trick there. But, oh well.
Yeah, I'd agree. I sort of feel like them partnering with Metal to do some of this stuff is kind of almost admitting they're not really going to fix any of this stuff, because why else partner with someone like that to do it? I mean, I've also been told conflicting things. I've been told that they're going to work on the game DVR and fix it, but then I've been told that that's not a priority whatsoever. So it's we'll just have to wait and see if they ever do something about it. I don't know. Maybe being tied to the Xbox One is the problem. You know, you'd figure the Series X would be more than capable of handling everything. You know, you look at how PlayStation does it, and it's a lot better. But I guess we'll just have to wait and see.
Maybe they'll just buy Medal. Maybe they'll just buy it. Like Medal's,
Maybe.
like I'm looking at it now. Medal. It's called Medal.tv, and it looks pretty good. So maybe they'll just buy them. You know,
Possible. Yeah.
Yeah.
Beaner8127 says, love the show. Off the top, tell us a personal ghost creepy story you experienced. Jez, would the paranormal be part of your UFO crypto podcast?
Yeah, it would. Definitely would. Well, I haven't really had many what I would call truly paranormal experiences. Like I desperately wanted to see UFOs as a kid. I used to just literally sit, stare at the sky, thinking, man, I really hope I see a UFO. I did see for the first time in my life a shooting star a few weeks ago, like something burning up in the atmosphere. I don't know if it was like space debris or a little tiny asteroid or something, but I saw a shooting star. Me and my girlfriend did. It was like so romantic. I was like, oh my god, a shooting star, you know. Maybe it was a UFO crashing and burning up in the atmosphere. I don't know, Rand. But you know, I've never really had a paranormal experience when it comes to ghosts, personally. Like when I was a kid, the wind used to blow down the alleyway next to my house and make a spooky noise, and I'd lie there like as a little kid, like 6 years old, thinking, "Oh my god, is that a ghost, or is it just the wind?" Chances are it was the wind, I think. But have you ever had a paranormal experience?
No, I've never really had a paranormal experience whatsoever. So. Yeah, I can't say I don't have a UFO story or any of that stuff, but I would listen to your UFO crypto podcast, Jess. You should put that together with somebody. Have Sean Labrie, the one and only, make you some cool some cool art to promote your podcast. You know, something really cool, because I know he can do it, because he can do pretty much anything. And be off and running. But no, I don't have any personal UFO stories. I'm kind of curious if anybody in chat has any ghost stories they would like to share. But Power,
yeah, hit us up in chat.
And the super chat says, isn't IOI's project a 10-year plan too, like Asobo and Flight Sim? Is this Xbox's soft locking developers down to a degree? I think you mentioned before that IOI's Project Dragon they do have a 10-year plan, correct?
Yeah, Project Dragon has a 10-year plan as well. You know, actually, there is a chance that I might have been mixing up Contraband and Project Dragon when I said there's a 10-year plan in place.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure
I did read Contraband. Well, I know that Contraband is a service game. I know it is, and I know they have plans for like long-term content. I don't know if it's a 10-year plan, come to think of it, but I definitely remember reading that Project Dragon was a 10-year plan. But that was also part of a pitch, not necessarily the reality. So that was part of a pitch deck, which they were like, yeah, we want it to have a 10-year plan. So like maybe if the game sucks, it's probably not going to have a 10-year plan, you know? So, but they're building a game that could have long tail sort of content and stuff like that, because, you know, that's where a lot of the industry is heading these days. And, you know, if you are making a service that costs £10 a month, having games in there that are constantly updated is, you know, a good way to keep boosting that service and stuff like that. So,
yeah.
So the idea of sorry, what was the question again exactly?
Like soft locking, like a soft locking developer, basically, like 10-year plan.
Yeah,
and yeah, so if like they do get bought out, you know, maybe they still work on it or whatever. But I know people do want Xbox to buy Asobo and IO and stuff, but yeah. King Supreme says new Tomb Raider and Hitman Plus, please. I want new action adventure IPs. Warlord says, all my favorite Xbox YouTubers do this. Hype rumors, then backtrack when nothing happens. I wish they would all stop. I understand what you're saying. I usually don't get caught up in the whole rumor thing. In fact, most time, and I've had people complain to me about this, is like I'll talk about a rumor and then I'll just completely stomp it out. People say like I crush their dreams on certain things. So most of the time when we talk about rumors, I'm pretty balanced when I come to it. I don't really get caught into the hype. The only time I really got caught in the hype recently was this pre-E3 where everybody's talking about these things, and I was hearing things from people behind the scenes, and I'm like, oh my god, this might be happening, and then it didn't. So I looked like an idiot, and you know, not only to like myself or like saying something was 99% sure going to happen and it didn't. But then everybody who listens to me and like, oh, I said this was going to happen, it didn't. So, but yeah, I mean, people hype rumors all the time, whether it's on Twitter and elsewhere. I try to do my best to stop that if I feel like it's not true. And I think most of the people who watch my videos realize that. Like most recently, the whole, what we talk about, the whole console refresh, the Series S coming out next year with 5 teraflops and all that stuff. And I made a video and I was like, yeah, this ain't happening this anytime soon. And we talked about it in the podcast, and Jez was like, absolutely not.
Yeah.
So most of the time,
sorry, I was just saying, it's a catch-22 because like algorithmically, if every podcast or every YouTuber makes a video about a breaking piece of news, so like there's a rumor that, say for example, Microsoft's going to buy Avalanche, and you get like IGN, you get like, and again, this is a wider indictment of algorithmic search engines, and this is Google's fault really. But Google like sees what people are talking about, and they see what trending content is, and they think like, okay, all these YouTubers are talking about Avalanche rumors, so that must be what the trending news is. Now, if you talk about the Avalanche rumors, then they consider you part of the conversation, and they will increase your ranking and be like, okay, this guy's on the ball, he knows all the latest rumors and stuff. Let's promote his YouTube channel or his blog in our algorithm. So, but then the problem is, what if it's bullshit? You know, and oftentimes these rumors are bullshit, and then you end up in a situation where, you know, it's the rumors don't pan out, and then people get disappointed. But if you don't cover it, then it's like, oh, this channel doesn't know the latest news. Let's down rank his page ranking and stuff like that. And if you're trying to run a business, you kind of have to make yourself part of the conversation. If everyone's talking about something and you're not talking about it, Google automatically just assumes, okay, this channel's become lazy now. Let's down rank them. They're not joining this conversation. Blah 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 blah. And that happens with all news because Google literally controls the entire internet. They control the entire internet. Their algorithm controls the internet. So this is how, like, also you get fake news. It's like if a website and web traffic is becoming increasingly important as well to like your big name media websites like CNN and Fox News and stuff like that, Daily Mail, whatever. And all these websites, all of them are sort of like they're sort of like they have to sort of stay with the times and join in with the trending discussions and all that sort of stuff. If there's like fake news spreading, and they're not joining in the conversation, and Google's algorithm hasn't been updated to accommodate the fact that something's fake news, the fake news spreads because all these websites want to be in Google's bloody algorithm. So that's how fake news spreads. It's all Google's algorithm, and it's all like it's horrible. You know, it's just the way it is now. The internet was never like that back in the day. Before Google made it so you were rewarded essentially for spreading bullshit. And if you've got a business to run, then it's sort of like, what do you do? One way, Rand, that you can still join in with the conversation and still benefit the algorithm is to debunk rumors. So like oftentimes, like when I see a fake rumor going around, I'm lucky because Windows Central's business model's a bit different. So we're not really a news website, right? We're more of a tech site. So like we cover tech, headphones, monitors, laptops, sort of thing. So our business model's slightly different. But like sometimes if I see fake news spreading or trending and I'm thinking like I should be part of this conversation, I'll try and do the research and debunk it and be like, okay, well, this 25 teraflop Xbox that does 8K is bullshit because I did the research and I asked around and like now I can join in the conversation with better information. But the problem is that takes time and work, and oftentimes you come into the conversation a couple of days later, and if you're an individual doing YouTube or writing a blog for trying to earn money and pay rent and help your family out, sometimes you don't have the time and the effort and the contacts to do that kind of research. So that's where hype comes from. It's all Google. So everyone blame Google. Okay?
Yeah. But I mean, it's just people hype up everything. I try to do my best to remain even keel, and usually I stomp out rumors because most of them aren't true to begin with. But I did get caught up with the stuff pre-E3, which was my bad. And I honestly did believe they were like purchased, and I was like, oh, this is happening, and then I looked like an idiot, and it was like, oh, they didn't happen. It's like, oh shit. Well, oh well, wrong on that one. BS Staple says Xbox needs to do defensive acquisitions like Sony does. Already lost out on Splash Damage, Sumo Digital because of Tencent. Still hoping for Moon Studios. Moon Studios would be a great pickup, but I kind of think they've talked about how they don't want to be acquired, so I wouldn't really think that they're on the docket. Lucas says, do you think they will implement changes to clip editing and sharing tools? I think I already read that one. Let's see what else we got here. Wolf Assassin says, chances Psychonauts 2 or Deathloop will win Game of the Year. I think there's really good chances both those games are nominated for Game of the Year. You know, the Keeleys are coming back on the 9th, December 9th, right? We talked about Hellblade 2 being at the VGAs. Not only Jeffrey Grubb saying it, but we talked about it last week, and we're pretty sure that it's going to be at some show at the end of the year. I do, depending on how some of these games launch in the fall, like I can't see Far Cry 6 being nominated. Same thing with Back 4 Blood. I don't really see Battlefield or Call of Duty getting nominated. Halo can't be nominated because I think it's past the cutoff date. Forza, I'm sure will win Best Sports Racing Game, but could it be the year Forza Horizon 5 actually gets a Game of the Year nomination? Possibly. So with how much people love Psychonauts 2 and Deathloop, like reviewers kind of vote on this, I easily see both games being nominated for Game of the Year. I do think this year's Game of the Year is kind of wide open. There isn't really a game that has just come out and it was just like, this is the best game. Like, you knew Last of Us Part 2 was going to win last year, right? So I kind of feel like this year is kind of a little bit wide open. Like, anything could really win. You know, Psychonauts 2 could win, Deathloop could win, Ratchet and Clank could win, you know, Hitman could win if it gets nominated. Like, there's, you know what I mean? There's like not that one critically acclaimed game that is like so far above all the other ones. You know what I mean? So I think there's a good chance they'll be nominated. Who knows about when? Switch Pop says, FreakX says, long-time listener, first-time super chat. Keep it up, guys. Jez, can you say "man with the million" in your American voice?
Man with the million.
Is that your American voice, the Halo announcer now? Not like, whoa, bro, man with the million? Not like that one?
Yeah, a third of people talk like the Halo announcer. So.
Yeah.
Man with the million. Team battle. Team Slayer.
Gunstar.
It's kind of nasally, that voice, actually. Team Slayer. Almost.
Our buddy Gunstar says, what game do you think will be the first to use all the touted next-gen features of the Series X? I.e. DirectML, super sampling, ray tracing, velocity, etc., etc. Or is this all last gen's cloud? So essentially like how cloud gaming was hyped up last gen, but wasn't really a thing. It was just like, you know, a buzzword. Is DirectML, super sampling, ray tracing, velocity, are all those things actually going to be support? Like, I get his question. Like, so what do you think, Jez?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. I saw an article where people were like, Far Cry 6 ditches ray tracing for 60 frames per second. They did the right thing, blah, blah, blah. So people were like celebrating the fact the game didn't have ray tracing. It is interesting. It's an interesting discussion because a lot of this stuff was hyped up. Ray tracing was hyped up, and a lot of these features just never sort of materialized. So is it all hype? I don't know. I suppose we'll have to wait and see. A lot of developers probably think it's not worth it. I think like ray tracing, like it's really intensive and all it adds like some shadows and reflections and does make things look more dynamic. But a lot of the time it's at the sacrifice of something else. So I think a lot of devs are just sort of thinking, well, 60 frames per second is easier to implement and it's, you know, better for the flow of the game. So a lot of people are just opting for that anyway. But you just have to wait and see. It's like it's another one of them. It's hard to predict how development's going to evolve. You know,
it would have to be one of Xbox's next gen only games from their first party.
I think like I think Microsoft will partner with some studios on like sort of marketing deals, like similar to what they do with Battlefield. So like They'll be like, yeah, we're partnering with Battlefield to make this like the most super duper next gen version of Battlefield ever, and it's got all these features, blah 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 blah, and you know, to sort of hype up some of their dev features. But because they did that with Rise of the Tomb Raider, if you remember, like Rise of the Tomb Raider was they almost like used Rise of the Tomb Raider to be like, oh look, actually Xbox can do some of this stuff, you know, because there was a whole argument about Xbox being underpowered, whatever, and Rise of the Tomb Raider was an absolutely stunning game with like, you know, absolutely gorgeous. Like you can't take that away from Crystal Dynamics, even though like I'm not a huge fan of the modern Tomb Raider games and whatever, and don't think they play very well. It's hard to deny that they are absolutely stunning. Like what?
You don't think the Tomb Raider games play well? Crazy.
No, I don't. I think the guns feel like toys. It's a Lego game. It's a Lego game, man.
Oh my god! Is that your go-to insult for anything? Lego game this, and Lego game that? Because Tomb Raider does not look like a Lego game.
I'm telling you, dude, the guns in Tomb Raider feel like Nerf guns. They feel like you're shooting Nerf darts at enemies. They feel terrible. Hate it. I hate playing Tomb Raider. It just does not feel good. But it looks good. The hair physics are amazing. The snow physics and all, and the visuals are great. I'll give it that. Okay. You happy with that?
Yeah.
You're happy with that?
Yeah. Okay, sure. Yeah, give it to me. I'm happy with that. I mean, it's just your opinion. I kind of do agree. Like the shooting's not necessarily the best of the best, but usually, I mean, what third person shooting is. You know, Gears is pretty damn good at it, but you know, I don't even think on Uncharted shooting is that good. It's like pew pew pew, and yeah, I guess you could apply that to Tomb Raider as well. But
yeah.
Sergeant Rake says, hope you are both well. Is it just me or the gaming community a bit unreasonable lately? People just want instant gratification. Good games take time. I mean, I don't think that really has much. I mean, that's not exclusive to the gaming community. Everybody's unreasonable. Everybody wants instant gratification, you know?
What are you talking about? I'm not unreasonable. I'm the most reasonable, actually.
Yeah.
But come on, that was a headshot. Sorry.
No, but he is right. A lot of discussion around this generation is negative. You know, Xbox versus PlayStation, the console war. You know, delays of games and stuff like that, and not understanding or wanting to understand like how, you know, game development works in a pandemic when games take long times to come out and all that stuff. Like, yeah, people want their instant gratification. Like, you know, they want their likes and retweets. You know, they get that dopamine rush. They constantly do it. Like, it's not exclusive to gaming. It's everywhere in the entire world for everything. So
yes, I think it's just because like a lot of gamers are getting older. You know, like me, for example, I'm about to hit my mid-30s, the midway mark. Rand's like, you know, pushing 50. You know, pushing 60.
Pushing 50.
Rand's getting ready. Yeah, you know, Rand's getting on a bit, you know, and when you get old like Rand, you start getting grumpy. You know, it's just the way it is. So as gamers get older, I think there is more cynicism out there. Would you say that's true, Rand? Like,
yes.
Since you're the oldest person here.
Well, no, I'm the oldest person here. Wow, you're gonna ride this train for a while. No, but I mean, people become jaded. People become cynics. Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
I'm not cynical yet. I'm not jaded yet. Maybe it'll happen at one point in time. You know, it'll be a sad day when I'm jaded from video games, or I'm a cynic and I don't want to play them anymore. That'll be the day I like just stop making YouTube videos or talking about Xbox and doing podcasts because I just wouldn't care, and I need to care about something and really talk about it at length. You know, so yeah. Lady Foxfire, shout out to Fox. Hold on one, Jez. I gotta get this. She says, I'm legally blind and been gaming since I was 6 years old and have always struggled in silence, but I just want to say big thanks to the accessibility team. Because they did an accessibility stream today, didn't they, Jez?
Yeah, they did. That was a surprise. That sort of came out of nowhere. I also did a feature on the Xbox Adaptive Kit, which is aimed at people who are blind or partially blind, to add like tactile features to Surface devices, because sometimes Surface devices, they're not the most accessible, but like if you throw in this kit, then it makes it a little bit more accessible, you know. So Microsoft's doing a huge amount of work in this space right now. It's really, really good to see. You know, I got a lot of family members with various disabilities, so you know I feel personally invested in that that effort as well. So yeah, shout out to Lady Foxfire. Lady Foxfire is awesome, and you all should definitely follow her on Twitter as well.
Yes, indeed. Valen Gaming Pillow says, great show as always, guys. Xbox and PlayStation both on fire right now. Never been a more exciting time to be a gamer. 100% agree. Yeah. Wolf Assassin says, Jeff Grubb said yesterday Xbox Game Studios could be trying out IO, Avalanche, and Crystal Dynamics with the chance of being acquired. Thoughts? Well, we talked about that already, and I think me and Jez both agree that there is some truth. There is a lot of truth to that, actually. And I personally, my prediction is that they end up buying Crystal Dynamics from Square alongside the Tomb Raider IP. What I want to happen personally is not only do they buy Crystal Dynamics, they also acquire IO Interactive and buy the Tomb Raider P and the Hitman IP from Square. I think that makes a lot of sense. I think it kind of fits in their plan, but I actually hope that happens. Yeah. I know a lot of people are like, you're hoping for more studio acquisitions? That's a monopoly. And Xbox, the whole talk about Xbox monopoly going around this past week because of Colin Moriarty and Sacred Symbols and his little clip that was circulating on Twitter. What do you think about that? About people scared that Xbox is actually would acquire Take-Two, right? Like, and be upset about pulling Grand Theft Auto away. Like, do you think is that a reasonable thing to be upset about? My whole thing is I think people are finally starting to wake up and realize that the Xbox this generation isn't going to be the Xbox of last generation. That Microsoft is very serious about gaming this time, and they weren't. I mean, like you said, Satya came out and said, yeah, it was a side project, and now it's pretty much central to what we're doing. And they've talked about spending money, and they already bought Bethesda. And a lot of people were shocked by that Bethesda games aren't going to be on PlayStation, right? And I think PlayStation fans are always been used to getting everything because it's been the most dominant platform. They get the PlayStation games, and they get pretty much everything else, all the third-party support, all the Japanese support, because they're, PlayStation's dominated. But now you have Microsoft who's hungry, who knows they need to spend money, who knows they need more studios, and, you in this situation where they're using these old arguments about how Xbox can't manage their studios properly, and in that clip they talk about, Crackdown 3 and Scalebound, and it's just like, listen, you can make an argument that Xbox doesn't manage their studios properly. We talked about it before with 343, but apparently that's going really well because Jez loves Halo, so maybe that'll end up turning out to be really well. But I don't know, like when you say Xbox can't manage your studios properly, but then you point to Crackdown and Scalebound and Phantom Dust, I kind of like, well, none of those were Xbox games. None of them were made by Xbox Studios. You can make the better argument is like Xbox doesn't know how to pick good partners, but like when you look at like their own studios, like Turn 10 was built from the ground up and has made the incredible Forza Motorsport. I'm trying to think, like Rare, even though you could maybe say there's some mismanagement going on at Rare with Everwild, but I think part of like running the studio and doing things is knowing when like something isn't working and starting over. So they're starting over on Everwild, and Sea of Thieves became a hit. I think the Coalition has managed Gears well. I don't think some people would say they mismanaged Gears, but I think they've done a good job. I think people just don't care about the Gears franchise as much anymore, and I think that's sort of led to a lot of people to abandon the franchise and want Coalition to do something else because they just don't care about Gears anymore. Trying to think, Mojang and Minecraft has done incredible. I mean, there was only 5 studios Xbox had last generation, Microsoft relied on external partners for everything, which is part of the reasons for the downfall of the Xbox One this past gen. So, you have to look at what sort of thing, how Xbox is going, their studios that they've purchased. How is Ninja Theory going to work with Hellblade 2? Is that game going to be way better than Hellblade 1? Obsidian with Avowed, Initiative and Perfect Dark, Playground and Fable. We already know Forza Horizon is amazing. right? So I think people cherry pick some of their arguments to try to make their points, and nobody's saying like Crackdown 3 was great or that perfect. Well, Phantom Dust was what was basically stop canceling the game and then doing the OG remaster instead was probably not the best idea, and that Scalebound isn't like a Black Eye, but that was Platinum, so I know I think people use their old arguments. Now if it comes out in the future that all these studios have problems and Ninja Theory's Hellblade 2 sucks and State of Decay 3 is not good and Avowed is bad and all these games that started under these Microsoft acquisitions are horrible, then okay, then you really do have a point. But I do think some of this is just the fear of Microsoft with unlimited money coming into a segment and actually being competitive this time and buying up things that other people want. And there's that fear that something like a Grand Theft Auto might not be on your platform, where before you never had to think about it. You always thought to yourself, it's always going to be there no matter what. And seems like it's changing. It definitely seems like more and more and more every single week there's more acquisitions, whether by Embracer Group, Sony, Tencent. I mean, Netflix just bought their first studio. The studio that made Oxenfree. What if they really start to get into gaming and they start purchasing? What if Amazon, right? We've dunked on Amazon on this podcast, right? People were really worried about Amazon coming into the industry, and a lot of their games that they've released haven't been very good until New World, which is like dominating Twitch and dominating Steam. What if they decide, you know what, we're going to spend some money and buy some people, and of course there's the laughingstock that is Google Stadia. It doesn't seem like they're doing much, but it definitely does seem like more and more like the devs will just keep on getting bought. And I think using old excuses to say like, oh, you shouldn't want Xbox to buy this because they don't know how to manage their studios isn't the right thing to say anymore. Personally, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's true. We need to wait and see. Psychonauts 2, sort of like the first example of a Xbox game studio delivering, and even that is sort of like a bit. I mean, you can argue against that. They can say, "Oh well, that game was in development before," blah 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 blah. But it's the first real sign for me that there is something different at Xbox game studios right now, and we're just going to keep seeing more and more and more and more of this, especially as Bethesda starts ramping up and all those games go exclusive. And, it's taken a long time to get here. But I think like a lot of the arguments and a lot of the discourse is ultimately fear, especially like seeing how well how well received Halo Infinite is being right now. I think the big team battle is shut down now. Can't get a game anymore. So I think you've missed it, Rand. Did you get a chance to play it? Or
No. It'll be back on in I think like 4 hours.
Ah, okay.
There's another test later.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, it's just I'm really excited for the future, and I've seen things, Rand. I've seen things behind the scenes that I'm pretty sure nobody else has seen. I don't even think Jeff Grubb has seen some of the things that I've seen. And I am more excited than ever. I've said that before, but now I'm like even more excited than that time I said I was more excited.
Jeez.
I'm so excited for what Obsidian is doing. I'm so excited for what NXL is doing. If you're a Western RPG fan, the Xbox is the place to be right now. It really is the place to be.
Neon Black says, hopefully that shooting star was a good sign for your health, Jez. Paul wants to know what are your guys' worst games ever? Well, it's probably some crappy game I played for achievements. I'm sure, I don't know. I couldn't even tell you. I played so many bad games for achievements back in the day. It's definitely one of those.
I know what my worst game is, Rand.
What?
My worst game is Splinter Cell. I hope that series never comes back. Splinter Cell is so bad. What's his name? The guy from Splinter Cell.
Sam Fisher?
I can't remember his name. See, it's so unmemorable. I couldn't even remember his name. Yeah, Sam Fisher, worst character ever. He doesn't even fish, man. I never seen him fish anything once. It's a terrible game. And I hope it never comes back unless it's a free-to-play mobile game.
I hate you. Can everybody who loves Splinter Cell in chat just get like a I hate Jez going in chat, please, because this is absurd. Like all the crap I have to take. And Jez will DM me and stuff and be like, "Yo, I got info about a new game that Microsoft's partnering with." And I'm like, "Oh, what is it?" And he's like, "They're partnering with Ubisoft." And I'm like, "Get the F out of here." And he's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "What is it?" He's like, they're doing Splinter Cell. And I'm like, "I don't believe you." He's like, "No, I'm dead serious." I'm like, "Really?" He's like, "Yeah, it's a free-to-play MOBA." I'm like, I'm like, "No."
Oh, man. I just want to give Cerebral Paul a shout out in the chat. Cerebral Paul helped me with the accessibility article this week.
Awesome.
So thanks.
Yeah, check out Jez's article about the accessibility. You also talked to who'd you talk to?
Sightless Combat.
Oh, Sightless Combat. Steven, you talked to Steven Spoon?
And no, I saw to Steven Saylor.
Oh yeah, Steven Saylor. Okay, yeah.
But man, people are really annoyed about that Splinter Cell thing, man.
Yeah, of course they are.
I just look, Rand. I'm a professional video game critic. Rand. I'm a professional video game critic, and as a professional, I profess that Splinter Cell is just a bad franchise, man. And if it was good, it wouldn't be dead. Face it, Rand. Will you admit that Splinter Cell is a bad game?
Or maybe Ubisoft. Maybe Ubisoft just is a good developer, and they don't know what to do with the greatness that is Splinter Cell.
Oh dear, I don't know. Maybe, Rand. Maybe. I mean, if you wanna dream and live in a fantasy land, maybe that's the reality. But,
Space Dovican says, don't you guys have Baba Yaga over there? Do you have Baba Yaga, Jez?
Baba Yaga?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Baba Yaga is like I believe an Eastern European myth about a witch.
I think so. Yeah, he's also John Wick. Yeah. John Wick's the Baba Yaga, right?
Right.
From the movie. Hargit Channy says, "Are we done with announcements for this year's potential games? I assume no new surprises. Do we assume 2021 games with no release dates are delayed?" I mean, I'm sure there's going to be surprise announcements at the VGAs. There usually are, right? New games are announced. If we're talking specifically about Xbox, I don't really see any surprise announcements from Xbox the rest of the year. Do you, Jez? Like a new unannounced game? Unless it's the Kojima game being announced at the Game Awards. I think the
Game Awards could be a fun show for Xbox.
Yeah. Do we assume 2021 games with no release dates are delayed? Yeah, I mean, if a game says 2021 at this point and we don't know when it's coming, like Crossfire X. Remember, they still say it's 2021, but there's only 2 months left. I mean, are we to assume it's delayed? Scorn had a 2021 thing, but I believe they delayed it to 2022 at this point. So maybe it's just best to think a lot of these games are just going to be next year at this right now, So, Warlord says, "I would pay serious cash to hear Jez speak with his American accent more often. Love the show, guys. Just keeping us honest with my earlier comment." Thank you. Let's see. Space Dovican says, "I prefer SSR over ray tracing. I prefer 60 frames. So whatever gives me 60 frames, I prefer it. Because I think playing at 30 frames to get ray tracing is awful. Because 30 frames is awful. It's like, I couldn't believe it when I played Hellblade and I went from 30 to 60 just for ray tracing. Like, yeah, it looks better, but like what you lose with the frame rate, no, it's not worth it." Let's see what else we got here. Supernova says, "Obsidian promises to show something soon about Avowed in June. Now at the end of the year, do we see Avowed?" Quite possibly, yes. I mean, Jez has talked about that. It's possible. Like Xbox has a big VGAs. We know, or at least we think, that Hellblade will be there. Maybe Avowed will be there as well. Dub says, "Do you think we will see a controller revision this gen with the DualSense haptics? It's the only thing keeping me from getting an Elite controller." We've talked about this, and we debated this, and I think we're on different sides of the coin. I think when they do an Elite Series 3, which I think is a slam dunk, considering how well those controllers sell, I think one of the new features is going to be haptic feedback. Jez disagrees with me. He thinks there's no reason to have a controller with haptic feedback because most of the controllers that people use on Xbox won't have it, so developers won't implement it in their games. So it's essentially going to be a useless feature, right? That's kind of where we are on that, right?
Yeah. I don't know. I just think, like, why add it to one controller, and then ask devs to make that feature work for one controller? It's going to be on all the controllers or on other controllers. Like, otherwise, what's the point?
Yeah.
I don't know. But I do know Microsoft is interested in haptics, right? Because haptics could be a way to solve the issues that come with touch controls on Xbox games, because like one of the, in games that are designed for like rapid motion and complicated button inputs, not being able to feel where the button is with your thumb is a big barrier for a lot of people, and games like Genshin Impact are designed with more simple controls to accommodate for this. But obviously Xbox games are not designed with simple controls to accommodate for this. Some of them require very complicated combinations of buttons and stuff like that. And I think like haptics could be a way to solve that issue, but then you'd have to ask phone manufacturers to add haptics to all of their phones. So there is haptics are going to be like a thing that becomes more prevalent in the industry. I think Sony was completely right and forward thinking when they came to adding haptics to the PlayStation 5. It's the right thing to do. Very, very smart play by them. Really good idea. But I also don't think you add it to a niche controller that not everyone's going to be able to buy. So I don't think they'll add it to the Elite controller, and I think you're wrong. Unless, Rand, and this is one thing you do often, you claim things are a prediction, but then you secretly know. So I often don't like to bet against you, because I know that you pretend you don't know things when you do know things. So if Rand is saying, I think they'll do a goddamn Elite controller with haptics, and it'll only be on the Elite controller. Hey-ya! And that's Rand saying that. It's kind of like, I'm inclined not to disagree, because you tend to pretend you don't know when you actually know. So what can I do? What can I do, Rand? Are you faking this being a prediction or not?
No. Is it one of my quote-unquote predictions? No. Like, it's not at all.
Are you trying to hornswoggle me, boy?
No. I just... Look. We know Xbox loves selling control accessories, right? It's one of the things they love to do. They love all the extra controllers that they sell. They have a new controller with the share button. The Elite doesn't have a share button yet. So Elite Series 3 just makes total sense. And they've talked about... Phil has mentioned and talked about the DualSense controller and how, they can learn some things from that. I'm just saying, if you're trying to sell a brand new controller, another Elite, right, with all the things the Elite 2 did that was better over the Series 1, if you're trying to then sell another $200 accessory with more new features, what is something you could pack in there? You'd be like haptic feedback. And if developers are already using haptic feedback on the PlayStation side, then you could maybe make the argument that it could be easy to use it on the Xbox side. I just feel like if we see an Elite Series 3, I would not be surprised that controller has haptic feedback. Not saying it'll have adaptive triggers, but I think we could see haptic feedback. Because what else could they package into a Series 3 to make it, all right, outside of a share button, right? What can we package in here to get people to spend even more money on another Elite controller? Like, what more new features could we put in here to sell you for $200? And most people would be like, I don't really know. But if it was haptic feedback, a lot of people would be like, all right, that's something that might be worth it. And then you make it standard going into, next generation or whatever. I don't know. It's definitely not one of my predictions for sure.
I don't know, guys. It's just one of my predictions. I'm Randall Thor, the man with the million predictions. Okay. Okay, I think, see that, like, maybe you add haptics in the Elite controller with the mindset of the future standard controllers are gonna all have haptics. But it's kind of annoying if like everyone just got new controllers to the Xbox Series X and then they add it in the middle of the gen. Okay, now you've got to upgrade your controller again with another new controller. So
Hey man, Microsoft loves selling controllers.
Yeah, they do.
They do.
They love their controllers, boy.
RDX Uneffect says Gaz's video on the sacred symbols is gold. Yeah, Gaz's sauce videos are always super amazing. Brett says Jez is on the warpath today. Keep choosing violence. Yeah, he's always on the violence, especially when he talks about my favorite franchises. So
I love violence.
Yeah,
I love it.
Kawaii Squad says I need a Mandalorian game. Man, what is with this webcams? Hot girls and boys video chat. How do they keep?
Do you know what it is?
What?
It's Sam Fisher. It's his new job, man.
Oh,
because
Jesus.
he lost his job as a game character and he lost his job as a spy wherever he is. So now that's what he does. Now he works for webcam girls and boys because he's hit rock bottom, man. He's hit rock bottom.
Friendly neighborhood Blue Shell says, "Does Jez love Tales of Rise? It has fishing."
I haven't actually unlocked the fishing system yet.
No, you haven't unlocked the fishing? Come on. That seems like something you should have done already.
Yeah, I should have done.
But you haven't done.
No, I haven't unlocked. I haven't unlocked the fishing yet. I found a fishing location. It says, we could fish out of here, but I don't have a fishing rod. I killed the first boss and then got kind of bored and then dropped off it.
So, Jez, we need to talk about Game Pass, right? We talked about the new games that came to the service, Marvel Avengers, Scarlet Nexus. We got Back 4 Blood coming in a couple weeks here. That's going to be pretty big. Forza Horizon in November, Halo in December. But the big talk this week was, is Xbox Game Pass at 30 million? And the reason people were speculating is at 30 million is because Phil Spencer and the CEO of Take-Two did a little kind of fireside chat. And the CEO of Take-Two said, "Hey, Phil, we're at like 30 million, right?" And Phil was like, "No, the last numbers we gave were, official numbers we gave were 18 million." And the guy's like, "Well, it's above 18 million." So people ran with the notion that, well, Game Pass is around 30 million because surely the CEO of Take-Two knows. Surely, right? If anybody partner would know, it'd be definitely the CEO of Take-Two. You wrote an article back in April saying that you had heard, although you definitely retracted that later when you said you were wrong, that Xbox Game Pass was around 23 million, which you retracted. And then I think Jeff Grubb said yesterday that they didn't want to share, or last quarter it was definitely below 23 million. And that the reason they're not sharing anything was because of your report, because they didn't want to make it seem like it was losing subscribers, right?
Yeah.
Which
I heard that too.
Yeah.
Rip.
So what do you think about this Take-Two guy? Does he know the number? Was he just throwing a random number out there? Why did he use the term "we"? Because I see people using that. He used the term "we," and people think like, well, this means that Take-Two's been acquired, right? So what do you think? Is Game Pass around 30 million? Is Take-Two acquired because the guy said "we"? What are your thoughts on it?
I think it probably is around 30 million because, I know that Microsoft shares. At a high level, Microsoft shares what the subscriber numbers are because that's how they entice people into the service. And in fact, my 23 million subscribers figure came from one of those decks where they were talking about 23 million, but it was in reference to another statistic. And I got it. I misheard and got it wrong, and I reported that. And then I went back. I listened to it multiple times, but like the way they talked about this particular stat was weird, and I misinterpreted it. And shit happens. But I think he knows. I think it probably is around 30 million because if he's just plucking a number out of the ether, it's not like he would have read that anywhere because no one's reported 30 million. No one's even hinted at 30 million. So, there's got to be a projection there, or he's got to have access to a figure that suggests that it's at 30 million. So, I would be inclined to believe that it is 30 million. But around 30 million. But I have no idea. I have no idea of knowing. I don't have any up to date. I don't have any up to date figures, stuff like that. So just have to wait and see, I guess.
I mean, he said around 30. Around 30 could mean anything. I'm gonna guess.
It depends on your perspective, right?
Yeah, I guess it depends. Like, what is around 30? Is 25 million around 30? Right?
Yeah.
I don't know. If I had to guess right now, I think Xbox Game Pass is around 25, right around there. Because there was that time a little bit after April, like May, June, like Game Pass wasn't really doing much, and I do think they receded. Judging from some of the, you know what I mean? Like, I think it definitely did recede, and I don't think Xbox is going to make any announcements until they hit certain milestones. So if it did hit 30 million, I think they'd be shouting 30 million from the rooftops, and maybe they will. Maybe when this past financial quarter's over, whenever we do hear the results, and if it did hit 30 million, they would share that. So I don't think it's hit 30 million yet. Space Dovakin wants to know why they took the video down, because the video was up and then it went down. Like, I think the video went up early, so they took it down, but I don't know if it's still down.
I think like they don't like sharing figures because it's something that they want to use it as a messaging for shareholders, right? They want to if they are going to talk about 30 million whatever, they're gonna talk about it at a big milestone, and they're going to talk about it in a context that sort of drives interest in the platform from shareholders and gets excitement and stuff like that. 30 million sounds like a good milestone. If Jeff said it's not a 30 million, then it's not a 30 million. I'm inclined to believe Jeff over everything, right? But like I say, I don't have any up to date information on that specifically, but I do feel like if anyone knows what the most recent figures are, it's probably the Take-Two CEO, because they do a lot of work with Game Pass. They spend a lot of money getting Red Dead and Grand Theft Auto into Game Pass, and from what I've heard, Grand Theft Auto and Red Dead Online both did very well in Game Pass in certain regions where consoles are very, very expensive. So like, South America and stuff like that, where they have decent internet infrastructure, but the taxes on electronics make it hard to acquire a console, like or acquire a GPU. And for those intensive games like Red Dead Online and Grand Theft Auto Online, which are not, trivial to run, you need like a high-end, you need at least a vaguely modern console or PC to run them. xCloud is a good backup, So I think if anyone knows, it's probably the Take-Two CEO. But like, is he rounding up by 7 or 8 million? Probably not. But there's a lot of speculation because it's also ultimately a console thing. People want to know. People want to know if Game Pass is failing or not, because a lot of console war-minded people see Game Pass as a threat. They see it in a threatening context, and they like to downplay it, and they like to say, "Oh, we don't like this. It's renting games, or it's bad for games. We won't own our games anymore." Blah 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 blah. And they try to fearmonger it because, grown ass adults don't have anything better to do, supposedly. But it is what it is at the end of the day. I think we'll see it when they hit a big milestone.
I think they'll definitely hit 30 and probably beyond with the end of the year. Like October, November, and December are going to be strong for Game Pass, simply because of the games that are in it. Forza Horizon 5 is going to be huge. Halo's Halo, right? And that's going to be huge. Although I do wonder some of the what it would be like if Halo's whole package was part of Game Pass, and if the multiplayer was not free, how much that could boost Game Pass, right? But I do feel like the multiplayer being free to play is best for Halo, even if it's not best for Xbox Game Pass, right? Yeah. And I do think if they hit 30, that is a number they would definitely want to report to their shareholders, because that is a very damn good number, because it was December of last year. They said it was 18 million, right? Yeah, they said it was 18 million at the end of December. If you basically hit 30 million by the end of this year, or if you say, December you're at 30 million, then you had 12 million in 1 year. Like, that's incredible growth. So, And this is all they're all doing this essentially without any of their first party big like Bethesda stuff or any of the studios they acquired putting out stuff. I mean, when you look at it, like Xbox, what Xbox has done in this year is pretty damn amazing considering like they only essentially had a 6-month-old PC port with Gears Tactics, Psychonauts 2, Psychonauts 2 multi-plat launch, a Forza game and a Halo game, which the Halo game was supposed to be at launch of the game. Like when you just see like the exclusive games that were supposed to be there, and what they've done and how like Game Pass has still grown, it's pretty damn amazing. Now then you think like the more you get into it when the games are supposed to come in 2023 or whatever, it'll grow even more. Jeff Grubb's Game Mass says Game Pass is failing. You two are damage controlling. Yeah. Of course it's failing. Of course it is.
Yeah, of course it is.
I saw a Twitter space that said Game Pass was going to destroy the industry. So of course it absolutely must be true. And didn't you know the Xbox 2, aka Xbox Damage Control podcast? That's what we do here. We damage control Xbox. I mean, Jez has never once criticized Xbox in any way and gotten bad feedback from Microsoft for criticizing them ever. It never happened.
No, never.
I've never had.
Did you get blocked by some Xbox?
I've never had people at Xbox unfollow me because of some of my critiques about some of the things that they've done ever. That's never happened to me, So, we've never both me and Jez, when Microsoft was like, "Hey, we're gonna double the price of Xbox Live Gold," me and Jez were like, "Why not triple the price, baby? Why not Why not $180 a year? Why stop at $120? Triple the price." Because we're willing to do whatever it takes, Microsoft. Like, we will bend over backwards for you. Anything that you say, we'll do. Because that's what we do here. We damage control.
I know that the main reason Rand damage controls is because he hopes that Phil will acquire the rights to Splinter Cell.
Oh, here we go. No.
He will give 343, destroy Halo, and then bring Splinter Cell to the 343. Rand's told me that's his secret master plan when it comes to damage controlling Xbox.
Yes.
Is that true, Rand?
That is.
Did you say that on the record?
That is 100% true.
What Xbox studio? What Xbox studio would be best placed to take over Splinter Cell? Just for the lulz, Rand. What studio?
What Xbox studio? Probably the Initiative.
How do you know? They haven't even made a game yet.
I'm just saying. Well, Perfect Dark is kind of spy-like, right?
Yeah, you mean like given the employees they've got and they're working with Crystal Dynamics.
Yeah. I would say the Initiative. Why? Who do you think it would be?
I think the best studio for Splinter Cell is probably Microsoft's Casual Games division.
Oh, shut the. I hate
what?
you.
No.
Why did I think?
Out, man.
Why did I
hear
think?
Me out.
Why did I think you were actually going to give me an honest to God answer instead of saying the Solitaire Company, man?
No, seriously, Microsoft's Casual Games division. Imagine it, the Minesweeper, but Splinter Cell Minesweeper. So like you play as Sam Fisher, getting rid of mines in Minesweeper, and it's available for free on mobile and all platforms. That'd be amazing. No? Mm-hmm. No, Rand?
Arcane could be pretty good, like people are saying in chat. I really want
Arcane, yeah.
I really want my prediction to come true of Xbox buying Crystal Dynamics and Eidos Montreal, getting the Deus Ex IP with Tomb Raider, with Hitman, and then just being like, Arcane, do you want to work on a Deus Ex game? And then being like, hell yeah, right? So that's what I want. Speaking of Bethesda, Jez, Tango Game Works confirmed that they're working on a new game, which is being led by the Evil Within 2 director. How do you feel about it? I knew this was going to make you happy.
I think the Evil Within. I haven't actually completed the Evil Within 2. I just didn't have time. It's another one of those games I want to go back to, but The Evil Within 1 is an underrated masterpiece, in my opinion. And I know that Shinji Mikami didn't lead development on Evil Within 2. Felt Evil Within 2 is a bit. It wasn't. It didn't have the same sort of grittiness as the first one, maybe. But the first one was a hard game. Did you ever finish the Evil Within?
No,
It was a hard game.
I did not. I did not play the first Evil Within. I haven't played the second Evil Within.
Completing the Evil Within on normal is a rare achievement. It's a hard game. So I feel like that might have been a barrier, but some of the monster designs and the bosses in the later levels of Evil Within absolutely scarred me. They are so utterly messed up. Like nothing like the sort of things that like you might expect of like drug-induced nightmares. Like I have no idea what's going on in some of the designers' heads in the Evil Within 1. Like Evil Within, like I actually went out and bought the art book for that game because some of the stuff you see towards the end of the game is just absolutely just mind-blowing. And there's not been a horror game like it. There really hasn't. Like I recommend to anyone who's a horror fan, give the Evil Within 1 a try and try and get through it. It's punishing. It's really hard. Just play on easy, if you want to like just experience the story. It is a really underrated game. I think a lot of people got stuck because there's a section where like there's like a nemesis kind of section where there's like a dude chasing you through a house and he's invincible. I think a lot of people dropped off then because it is pretty frustrating, that segment. But man, it's I really, really like that game. But
what do you think it's going to be? Do you think it's Evil Within 3? Do you think it's something else?
I hope so. I want it to be the Evil Within 3. Like, but Bethesda was, for a while, Bethesda was building up the Evil Within to be a franchise. They did merchandise for it. They did a whole bunch of stuff for it. And I know Microsoft sort of has this sort of skepticism around Microsoft has this mentality that games have to earn their sequels and franchises have to earn their sequels. And I guess the Evil Within 2 probably didn't sell that well, It probably did make its money back like over time with the game sales and stuff like that. But Evil Within 2 I don't think blew the world up by any means. But I do think that like if given the right sort of if they're just allowed to make a good game, kind of like what like they did with Psychonauts, right? They didn't try to make Psychonauts a service game. They didn't try to make it like an open world grind fest or whatever. They just made a really great Psychonauts game. If they let them make a really great Evil Within game, like maybe it's not going to blow up sales charts or anything, but it would sell the platform, and I think it would sell Game Pass and stuff like that. So I hope it's the Evil Within 3, but I would very much accept like something new from them as well, because I think the devs on that team are incredible and underrated, and I think it's a good way to sort of build up Microsoft's presence in Japan as well, So Tango Game Works is exciting, and it's one studio that I don't really actually know a damn thing about when it comes to like what they're working on. I know a lot about a lot of the studios at Microsoft, but I don't know anything about what Tango Games Works is working on. So I welcome the mystery and intrigue, and I hope it's the Evil Within 3, but I'm intrigued, man.
Yeah, I'm intrigued as well.
I like that studio. Play the Evil Within 1, man. Seriously.
I do have both games, so I think I might. Hargit says Game Pass is only going to destroy one game industry, PlayStation. I don't know about that, but so that's cool that we know they're working on something else. I wonder how far into production it is and when we'll actually see it. Dolby Vision is finally out on Xbox, Jez. Did you see that announcement?
Yeah, I did. Don't have Dolby Vision, so I let other people deal with that.
Yeah.
I have a QLED, man.
I know you have a QLED. You bought the wrong TV, but I'm almost afraid.
That guy you mentioned said QLEDs were better than OLEDs.
I know he did. I know. And
is that not true?
I don't know. I'm not. I've never claimed to know everything there is to know about TVs. So, you know what I mean?
I honestly bought a QLED purely because it's Samsung, and I got a Samsung phone, and they connect to each other. So I thought, you know what, I could do a load of research, or I could just not.
What if
I just didn't.
Tango is working on Silent Hill? Because you see the reporting today from VGC that Konami is planning on bringing back new entries into Castlevania, Silent Hill, and the Metal Gear and that
with partners.
yeah, and one of them, Silent Hill, is that they've recently given it to a Japanese partner. What if Tango Game Works? There were rumors. Remember the rumors that Microsoft was involved with Konami or whatever? What if they were just, hey, you can do Silent Hill, and that's the next game Tango Game Works is working on? Granted, it may not be, but what do you think about Konami coming back with, a new Castlevania, supposedly Metal Gear Solid 3 remake in development at Vicarious, I believe it is. I know a lot of people thought Blue Point is doing a Metal Gear Solid remake, which I've heard, but I never can tell if that's true or not. But it's definitely been a rumor around there. But even from Blue Point's own mouth in the IGN article, their next game is original content. So, what do you think about that? What do you think about Konami making a U-turn, coming back to gaming?
I think eFootball currently has the lowest rating on Steam out of every game that's on the platform. Have you seen this?
I did see that it basically had a horrendous launch.
Yeah, so eFootball is the new. I believe it's the rebranded Pro Evolution Soccer. I remember when I was a kid, there were big debates in school about whether FIFA or Pro Evolution Soccer was better. Being someone who wasn't ever into sport, the debates were lost on me. But yeah, I remember Pro Evo used to be a thing, especially in the UK. A lot of people were really into that. But this new eFootball thing looks like a pile of trash. And the devs released a statement today saying like, "Oh, we're sorry, the game's trash. We'll fix it." Blah 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 blah. And this trend of releasing garbage and fixing it later seems to be continuing. I could not possibly care less about what Konami's doing in the gaming space, because Konami have proven themselves time and time again to be a garbage tier publisher. So I don't care what Konami's doing. I literally couldn't care less. Like the idea that they're making a new Silent Hill, Metal Gear Solid, whatever, with third-party devs, I just expect nothing from that. I expect Konami to under-budget them. I expect Konami to make it really hard for the devs to make and execute those games how they should be. I expect them to be a quick buck, quick turnaround trash in hopes of tricking a few people into spending their money so that Konami can, survive for another year. I don't expect a damn thing out of Konami. Konami is a garbage fire, Rand.
Jeez.
They are garbage fire. They're on fire and they're made of garbage. That's Konami. So yeah, that's my take. That's my measured take.
I don't think Miles Dampier would like to hear that very much.
Well, Miles Dampier can sit down, because if he thinks Konami is gonna produce anything other than complete trash in this year, then I'm sorry to disappoint, But
Jez,
who knows? Maybe I'm completely wrong.
But Jez, what if
maybe they will?
What if Tango was working on Silent Hill, though, Jez?
If Tango's working on Silent Hill, and if this is another one of Rand Althor's not predictions, I would hope to God that Konami has literally just licensed the IP and then stepped away. Because if Konami has any involvement whatsoever, that game's going to be a trash fire. If Konami's like, we need this game by this date, you won't get any more funding or whatever. Konami's involved in any way other than licensing the IP. They need to get the fuck out, because Konami is trash. They are a trash company.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
All right. We got your thoughts on
What's
that.
with this Sam Fisher bot, man? Spamming porn.
I don't know. We keep on hiding them, but they keep on coming back. It's
like whack-a-mole, man.
Yeah.
It's like whack-a-mole, like the Halo space moles. Have you seen them on Twitter?
Yes.
Everyone's going hype about these space moles.
I've seen it. Kalki514 says, Rand, I'm a game tester at Ubisoft Montreal, and I can 100% guarantee you that they are not thinking about Splinter Cell. They'd rather bring back Prince of Persia first. Well, I mean, I do like Prince of Persia quite a bit, actually, as well. So, of course.
Would you say it's better than Splinter Cell?
No, I would not say that. Morgan says Konami will see all the fan desires, then turn around and make an awful Silent Hill 4 mobile port and blame the consumers for poor sales. Yeah, essentially, right?
Yeah, I agree.
So, yeah. Let's see what else we got here. God of War won IGN's best game of all time poll, Jez, and I didn't talk to you about this, but they went up against Grand Theft Auto 5, right? And was wondering what you thought. Do you think God of War 2018 deserves best game of all time? Would you?
I haven't. I've only played God of War 2018 for about 20 minutes, so I can't really officially comment. But I'm sitting there wondering, is God of War really better than, say, for example, an actually amazing game like Prey? Is it? Is it? Oh man, I don't know. I haven't played it, man. I haven't played it. So I think there's a recency bias with some of this stuff. Like, it's why the Game Awards are like kind of trash in a way. They completely ignore games that come out in like November, in December and stuff, like the next year, because games that come out in December or January or February, they're eligible for the following year's Game Awards. But by then, everyone's forgotten about those games generally speaking, unless it's like a mega banger like The Last of Us or God of War or something. So like, I think there's a recency bias to some degree, and also like a lot of these kids don't know about the classic games, Rand. You know those games you used to play when you were a little kid back in the 60s.
Back in the 60s, huh?
Or the 50s, when you were a little kid, Rand, in the 50s or 60s.
Uh-huh.
Did they even have video games back then?
No, it was tough to live back then.
Did you have electricity back then in the 50s or 60s? Right? When you were a kid? When you were a kid? Do you remember the war, Rand? What was the war?
Do you remember the war, Jez?
Were you drafted in World War II, Rand?
No, I was drafted in World War One.
Oh man. So I bet Battlefield 1 was tough for you on those memories, man. Oh man. I completely gone off track now. So yeah, like these kids today, Rand, they don't know about games. They don't know about 90s games, Rand. Like, think of some bangers from the 90s. Like, Super Metroid, man.
Super Mario Brothers 3.
And your Clay Fire. Do you remember that? Clay Fire. That wasn't a very good game, to be fair. Okay, what about, like, I don't know, Streets of Rage, man. Streets of Rage, classic. And your Golden Axe. Back in the day, Rand. I mean, you were in your 40s in the 90s, right? So, what was it like being in your 40s during the 90s, Rand?
Man, I'm not going to answer that question.
People in the chat throwing out some bangers right now. We got Ocarina of Time, NBA Jam, Bloody Roar. Did you play Bloody Roar, Rand?
I did play Bloody Roar, yeah.
Man. Back Ryu the Mole. Ryu the
Mole. Fallout New Jez.
Fallout New Jez. That's a good game. But yeah, I don't know. These kids today, man, with their Fortnites and their Instagrams and their TikToks, they don't know shit about games, man. They don't know shit.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm inclined, Rand, to disregard the IGN poll, because I don't think these kids know enough about video games to make such an important decision, And also, Prey wasn't even in the poll. So clearly Prey would have won if it was in the poll, right? Right, Rand?
I mean, I would say God of War is better than Prey. But I didn't even think God of War was the best game released in 2018. That title belongs to Red Dead Redemption 2. So how could God of War 2018 be the best game of all time when it wasn't even the best game that came out in 2018?
Oh man,
facts.
Fighting words, man.
Talking about facts right there. Man. Supernova says, "Is God of War 2018 better than Shrimp?" Definitely not. Definitely not. I don't know. It's just polls. IGN. I mean, once I saw the poll and how it was set up, it was like, yeah, this is going to be God of War versus Grand Theft Auto. So, I'm not surprised that God of War won. But, I do like seeing those polls. It's just, I actually really...
These kids, Rand. These goddamn
Well, it's all
kids.
about recency. Like, the older titles, the titles that paved the way for God Awards aren't going to get, traction. So, like, like you said, Super Metroids or Super Mario Brothers or any of the older games from previous gens aren't really, Legend of Zelda, Ocarina of Time. They're not going to make a dent. But God of War, because it came out 3 years ago, will. Grand Theft Auto 5 will, because people still, it's one of the most played games still, like even 2 generations ago, right? So
Rand. Let's ask chat. Chat, tell us, what is the best game of all time? Chat, come on, give us your best games of all time. You can only pick one game. What is the best game of all time? And your life depends on this question. So give us your suggestions in chat, and hit that like button too. Smash that like button.
Yeah, hit the like button.
As the YouTubers say.
Yeah. Yeah, what is your, if you had to say your favorite game of all time, your best game, put it in chat.
Man, it's
E.T.
for me, Rand.
Nick says E.T.
It's Final Fantasy 7 for me. The original, the
OG.
The original Final Fantasy 7 for me is the best game of all time. But for me. But what is for you, Rand? If you had to pick one. If you had to pick one.
Man, you see, it's tough because I always think about like my favorite games from like each generation, right? You know what I mean? It like NES, Super Mario Brothers 3.
Super Mario Bros. 3?
Yeah, like
that's the one with the Tanuki suit, right?
Yeah, the OG Xbox. I mean, Halo 2.
Man, I remember in Super Mario Bros. 3, like a neighbor, on the first level, a neighbor showed me that you could long crouch on a gray platform, and then you drop through, and then you go behind the map. I remember I was like, oh my god, that is mind blowing. Do you remember that secret? Yeah. So you could skip the level and get the flutes and stuff. Mm-hmm. That absolutely blew my mind as a kid. And man, I was always a Super Metroid kid, though. I absolutely love Super Metroid.
Yeah, Space Dovakin says Skyrim. I see a bunch of Skyrims and Witchers in here. Colloquial wants to know if we remember Lufa's Rise of the Sinstral. I don't recall that. Mass Effect 2, for sure. Knights of the Republic, Red Dead 2, Uncharted 2, Castlevania Symphony of the Night, the original Final Fantasy 7. I mean, there's a lot of good picks here. Original Deus Ex.
Raw vs. SmackDown.
Tetris. I mean, I could see people making a claim on Tetris for sure. BioShock. Ori. Outer Wilds. Not Outer Worlds. Super Mario Galaxy. I think Mario 64. Yeah, Mario 64.
Yeah. If I'm being completely objective, it's probably Minecraft. In terms of what is a pure video game that crosses generational lines, people of all ages can enjoy it. You can play it on any platform. You can play with anyone on any platform. It was a pioneer in that space. It's got 100 million monthly active users. It's probably Minecraft. As if I was looking at it analytically. It's probably Minecraft. But for me, nothing will beat how I felt the first time I played Final Fantasy 7. No game. I was like, wow, this game's on 3 discs. What the hell? That's crazy. 3 discs. And then every time I felt like I got to the end. I was like, oh my god, wait, there's more game now. And I think it was the first game I played that had an overworld map, because I never played Final Fantasy 6 or any of the previous Final Fantasy games. It just blew my mind. There's no game that will ever make me feel the way I did the first time I played Final Fantasy 7. But I know that's a lot of that's nostalgia, right? A lot of it's nostalgia.
I mean,
probably.
I'm kind of with you on Final Fantasy 7. It's a game during the PS1 gen,
yeah, PS1
probably my favorite. Halo 2. I mean, the amount of time I put in the multiplayer, changed my life. BioShock, probably my favorite game on the 360. I was just in awe when I played that. I mean, there's so many you could point to. So, but you know what it is, Jez? The greatest game of all time. Splinter Cell with Sam Fisher.
No. No.
Yeah.
No.
I wouldn't say that. Speaking of Grand Theft Auto, since it was in that poll that lost to Grand Theft Auto to God of War, the Kotaku's reporting that the GTA remasters are planned for November this year. So Grand Theft Auto 3, San Andreas, and Vice City. Will you be playing them, Jez, if they do launch this November? Are you going to pick up the GTA remaster and play those games?
Probably not.
Probably not.
You know, Rand, I got a confession, man. I got a
Oh.
confession about the GTA games.
Okay, confess.
I never really bothered playing through the story of those games
Really?
as a kid.
How come?
I never really bothered. I don't know. What I'd do is I'd start playing, I'd do a mission. You gotta bear in mind I'm like a little kid playing these games. And I remember like playing GTA. I'm someone who played GTA 1 and 2 back when they first came out. And all I ever did in those games was whack in the cheats, drive around with a tank, and kill things for an hour. I just go on killing sprees for hours on end as a kid. So like that's all I did in those GTAs as well. I don't think I even realized that GTA had a story until GTA 4. And like I didn't actually play through GTA story fully until GTA 4. So like all the time I just been like spawn a tank, go on a killing spree, camp in a hospital, kill everything that comes through the door. And I do that for hours. I don't know, maybe I was an angry kid. I don't know.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
So yeah, maybe. So maybe I'll go back and play them with like a different sort of mentality and try and do the stories and stuff because everyone says the stories in those games are great, right? But I never really bothered. Like I do like a few levels, a few missions, and then I'll like get bored, spawn a tank, drive around, kill everything, you know. But yeah, I might try them. But dude, this month is just packed. Like I got so much on. I got so many games that I want to play and so many games that I have to play for work. There's like Disco Elysium's coming to Xbox this month. Or next month, I can't remember exactly. I meant like Wasteland 3 DLC. Like the second Wasteland 3 DLC is coming out, so I want to play both the DLCs. I was waiting for both of them to come out before I did my next run because I didn't want to do one DLC and then wait and then have to do another run with the second DLC. So I thought I'll just wait for both of them, So I want to do Wasteland this year as well. Started my new save already. And, I want to play the Astria Ascending. That looks like my kind of game. But, man, where am I going to find all this time, man? Where am I supposed to find all this time?
I don't know.
I was playing Tales of Iron. Really enjoyed that. And then I had to stop playing it because I had to play someone else. Playing Diablo 2 a bit. I was supposed to review Diablo 2. And I was just like, man, I just literally just don't have time for this. I just don't have the time to review this game. So Diablo 2 is like back in the drawer for now. And there's Echo Generation as well. I want to play Echo Generation. That's coming out soon. Really
isn't Fall Guys supposed to be coming out soon too on Xbox? I think they said end of the year.
Yeah, probably not going to play that very much. It's not really my kind of game, really. I don't know.
Dean Brown says he wants GTA London 1969 was great on the PS1, and let's get a modern take on that.
Yeah, I played that. That was a cool game. GTA, like those classic GTAs, man. I remember being so impressed in GTA 1 and 2 that you could like skid on someone's corpse and it'd leave like a blood trail. I was like, wow, that is next gen. That is. Rand?
Yes.
What's the matter?
Nothing. I'm just.
Are you shocked?
No. I just got a DM that I was interested in reading. Maybe
was that a leak?
No, definitely not. But you said you wanted to keep the podcast shorter, and we keep on talking because that's just what we do, and it's almost 3 hours, and I feel bad.
I had a nap before the show.
Yeah, I could tell you're super amped. Plus, you're playing Halo and you love it. So Halo and love they go together.
Well, I'm not anymore because it's gone down.
Well, right, but it'll be back up in a couple hours. So you know what?
Yeah, obviously.
I think this would be a good spot to end the show, but take some questions. So if anybody wants to ask us some questions, make sure you put them in the chat. We'll get to them. I want to thank everybody for being here. Me and Jez love doing the show, and we love that everybody's here listening. Whether you're lurking or you're commentating or you're, hitting up that super chat, it's all really appreciated. We love you guys. And thank you for all the support as always. So this will be up on iTunes and Spotify as soon as Jez is able to. hopefully, sooner rather than later. But we do our best to try to get that up for you guys if you want to listen to it, not on YouTube, because I know YouTube drains data and all that stuff and battery life
Rand,
and
if
stuff
you
like
want
that.
to, if you want to send me the show after we get off, I can get it up faster. Because if I get it up with the converter, I have to wait for the YouTube to finish processing it, and then I have to
Well, usually I gotta wait for YouTube to finish
it.
processing it before I can download it on my end too.
All right.
Shout out to
you send it to me.
Shout out to Snowbike Mike, my guy in the chat. Mike, you better be streaming some Halo tonight. I want to see you own in Big Team Battle. I'll be in chat watching you, man. Love Snowbike Mike.
Team Slayer.
No, Snowbike Mike's. I want to get Snowbike Mike on the I want to have guests on the show, and Snowbike Mike would be one of the first people I want because I watch him when he's on like Miles' show or Colts, and I watch him on Kind of Funny XCast. The amount of like positivity, energy he just exudes, like even if I'm having a bad day, I listen to him and I'm just like, bro, I feel much better now. Like we need to get him on here at some point and just have a discussion about Xbox because he is incredible. So what do we got here? Let me see. We got some questions. Biggie Butters wants to know if how your health situation is going and if you're feeling any better.
Yeah, you know what? I've felt a lot better since I've been in England, but I still don't know if it's a diet thing. I don't know if it's something in the water in Germany. I don't know. But I'm seeing a specialist this week, which, by the way, Rand, may mean next week's podcast is on Saturday. Because I have to see this.
People are gonna be like, "Why don't you just move it to Saturday?" That's because stuff this, we never know. But
I might be back on time, and I will try to be back on time. But there is a chance that I won't be back on time. It depends how long the appointment goes. So hopefully I'll be back on time for the podcast, and we'll aim for Friday. But there's a chance it might be on Saturday. But yeah, I'm trying to work out this health stuff. Like I feel okay. It's just
Yeah.
Maybe I'm getting old, like Rand, man.
Maybe. Face says, "Hey, Rand and Jez, you see the tweets from Christopher Jez saying he was the reason God of War Ragnarok was delayed?" I did see those tweets. That he had he couldn't move in 2019. He had like back surgery and knee surgery, and he he obviously couldn't do the mocap, and that he's the reason the game was delayed to 2022. Which I believe him. I just wonder why Sony announced it for 2021 then, if they kind of knew. Like, it's just funny. We all knew when Sony announced God of War Ragnarok at their show last year and said 2021. Like, everybody on planet Earth was like, there's no way it's coming out next year. It's 2022. It's 2022. So it makes you wonder why they even dated it for 2021 in the first place. Especially if like Christopher Judge, hurting himself and getting surgery or fixing whatever the problem was the reason for the delay, which happened in 2019 because they didn't announce the game until 2020. So but mocap is an issue. That's one of the issues Ninja Theory was having too, because they couldn't do mocap because of COVID and stuff like that. And I think they even said Horizon Forbidden West said some of the delay for that was because of the motion capture performance. So for any of those games that were doing mocap, they were definitely hit hard. So I could see that. I could totally see that being the reason. I just want to know why Sony then bothered to announce it for 2021 then, when everybody knew it was going to be 2022. Probably just for hype, right?
Yeah, maybe.
Let's see what else we got here. X the Gamer says, "What do you think, or what do you know about the PS5 running 8K and Series X at 6K? Do you think this is down on the devs or a hardware-related issue?" Yeah, so I guess PS5 has the first 8K game, and it's The Tourist, which is a game that was already on Xbox, and I guess was running at 6K. But now it's 8K on the PS5. Do you think? I guess the question is, why do you think it's 8K on the PS5 and not 8K in the Series X, Jez?
I have no idea. No idea.
Yeah, I don't know.
I suppose I could reach out and ask.
Yeah, I don't know either. I'm not the person to ask for tech stuff, so I have no clue. Somebody, maybe they got to patch it on the Xbox Series X. It was like a launch title. So.
Yeah.
Who knows? Maybe the PlayStation's better, Jez. Maybe Mark Cerny was right. I don't know. Who knows?
Who
Whittia
knows?
says, Jez, Sir Clive Sinclair passed away the other day. Did you use a ZX81 back in your Grange Hill school days?
Like for those who don't know, Grange Hill is like it's like a 90s. It's like a 90s drama for kids. Grange Hill is like a high school or a senior school, as we call it. So like Grange Hill was a TV show for kids back in the day. I didn't use ZX Spectrum or any of those computers because I am not old enough. Rand is old enough, so maybe Rand used the ZX Spectrum. Did you ever use a ZX Spectrum, Rand?
I have no idea what that is.
Okay, it's like one of them old school computers. My first video game console was Atari 2600. That my uncle, well, it was my uncle's Atari 2600 really, but that's the first one I played on. I was about 3 or 4 years old, with awful, janky joysticks and all this stuff. And then I went to a Master System, but I never experienced any of those like older computers. But that chap who passed away was like the pioneer of personal computing. So I did see a lot of outpouring in the dev community about that recently.
Yeah, Shady wants to know if we're gonna play Hot Wheels. I'm probably not.
No, probably not.
Yeah,
I don't like racing games.
I like racing games. I just I don't know. I got way too many other games to play right now. So will I never play it? I mean, never say never. I mean, I might play it in the future sometime, but as of right now today, I really don't have any interest in playing Hot Wheels. My interest is like I want to play Far Cry. I want to play Black for Blood. I want to play Life is Strange. I want to play Kenna. Hot Wheels
And
is
Wasteland,
somewhere.
right?
Yeah, no, and Wasteland is or Waste. You know, I probably would play Hot Wheels before Wasteland. I'll say that. So,
Man, why do you hate games, Ren?
I don't hate games.
Yeah, you hate.
I don't
you
hate
hate
games.
good. You hate RPGs.
Kaloki wants to know, Rand and Jez, do you guys think it's better to make a sequel to an already good game classic or not? I guess it depends if the game deserves a sequel. Like, I think Ori is a classic, right? Ori is like a masterpiece. And you could make the argument you didn't really need a sequel to that. But then the sequel came out, and it was better than the first game in like every way almost. Storytelling, combat, platforming, and you're like, oh damn, they even upped themselves. So even though you think something's amazing, like they can always do something better. I know that I do wish like there was a sequel to Quantum Break and Alan Wake, which I think we are getting a sequel to that. I'm always down for sequels, honestly, especially if the story sets it up for it. So I would rather be sequels to something than not, I guess, is the way I'll answer that question. That's all wants to know, why did Xbox show Guardians of the Galaxy at the Tokyo Game Show when Square had their own show? Is it a Game Pass deal or acquisition season? It's probably just marketing stuff. They're probably the marketing partners for it in Japan, potentially, and I think PlayStation's the marketing partner for it in the US. But I don't. I mean, without knowing like the finer points of the deals, I wouldn't necessarily know. But that's kind of my read on it, right?
Yep.
Let's see what else here. Any other questions we got here? Some people are saying that Falconeer was 8K on the Xbox Series X at launch. I thought Falconeer was 4K.
But I have no idea. I think he said that they could do 8K. I think, like it was possible. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Not sure.
No one ever agrees with me. Says, hey Jez, why won't Xbox give VTubers like Njanji permission to play their games like Banjo or Psychonauts 2?
I have no idea what that's about.
I mean,
no idea.
Do you need permission?
You don't need permission to play those games. So, what? That's weird. You don't need permission to play those games. So, that's weird. Don't
Uh,
Unless they're trying to get like review copies or something. Like if they're saying like, oh, I can't play this because I don't have a review copy, that's different, you know. But like, you don't need permission to play a game on their channel. That's not a thing that exists.
Baz wants to know what I did for a living. Before YouTube, I was an electrician for a long time, and
Electrician.
yeah,
I didn't think they even had electricity in the
no,
1930s.
yeah, no, I was an electrician for a long time, quite a bit, and then I did some accounting, for one of my uncle's businesses, but that's pretty much, you know, that's pretty much it about before. I don't know why people care about like, what do you do? It's just like, I do what I needed to do. You know, had a job, did the 9 to 5. Actually, when I was electrician, it was like 7 to. It was like 7. I would have to wake up like we.
It's interesting. I wanted to know that. I was interested.
So it was like 9 to 5, right? And but like the company I work for, a lot of the guys wanted to start earlier, so we would start at like 7, which was against union law essentially, but nobody really cared. And you know, working in Cook County, you could be working anywhere, right? Like, yeah, you go do a job and you would be at the job and you might be working at this building for 3 weeks, right? And that could be, you know, say a few miles from your house, so it wouldn't be that bad. But I've had instances where, for a 7 a.m. start, I had to go work over at all the way on the north side of Chicago, like where Lakeshore Drive ended, at 7 a.m. And for that, like, I would have to be out of the house at like, I don't know, 6:15. So I'd have to be up at like 5:45. And then there was even this other one job we did for a couple weeks where like we were all the way like as far north of Cook County as was possible, and it was a 7 o'clock start, and like I was out of the house at like 5:45 because that's how long it took me to get there because of traffic. But like the only good thing about that was, is that we could leave. Obviously, if you start at 7, you're supposed to leave at 3. Right? Because if you're starting at 9, you leave at 5. But then like all the like, you know, the guys would vote not to have a lunch. So then like we would actually leave even earlier. And it was great because I would be home by like 3 o'clock and I would miss traffic. But yeah, I don't miss the days of having to wake up at 5:30 a.m. to go drive, you know, 35, 40 minutes to get where I needed to go, especially in the winter. You know what I mean? So,
mood.
And electrician is rough. I don't do that anymore because I don't know, it wasn't fun. Like I liked it in the beginning, but then it's just like, it's not exactly what I wanted to do. But I have respect for anybody that does that because like I've seen people get injured on the job, and it's not. Electricity is not something to play around with. You know what I mean? So, what else we got here? It says, no one ever agrees with me. It says, hey, Rand Jez, the Japanese copyright laws are stricter than the U.S. laws, so they have to get permission to play and monetize games. So,
I didn't know that. Maybe that's a government thing, you know? I mean, it's not necessarily a Microsoft thing. I think, like, there's probably what the issue is that Microsoft just doesn't have enough staff in Japan to facilitate influencers like they do in the West. That's probably another thing that they need to sort out. But I had no idea that Japan even had a system like that. Like maybe like I know that Germany has something similar to that where like all music has to go through this sort of like this music company thing. And like if the musician doesn't go through this company, they can't be published or something. I don't know. Which is why a lot of music on YouTube in Germany is just blocked because they haven't like had permission from the German music rights company or whatever it is. So yeah, I guess there is a lot of bullshit like that. I just assumed that it was like a Western thing or something, but I don't know. Microsoft probably like needs a bigger footprint in Japan. They need more people working there. They need a bigger team. They need to put more effort in. If Japan really is Microsoft's biggest, fastest growing market, stick some of them bloody, resources over there, and get us more games of the Japanese persuasion.
Yes. You know what? I think that's a good spot to end it, Jez. This is a 3-hour podcast. I don't know how the hell this happened again. I didn't think this was going to be a long one, but here we are. Just me and you just talking about stuff, and it ends up being long as hell. I don't know how this always ends up happening, but it does. I think it's because
I
you're just.
want to answer this question though first.
Okay, go ahead. Answer the question.
From Chief Nagel the 8th. Jez, when's the last time you went scrumping? Rand, have you ever went scrumping?
What the hell is scrumping?
Do you not know what scrumping is?
No, never heard of scrumping before.
Scrumping is when you basically steal fruit from free people's gardens or from farms and stuff like that, and then you use the said fruit to make scrumpy, which is a cider.
Never heard that before. Never heard that before.
I think it's a British thing. Scrumping.
I mean,
go scrumping, and then you make some scrumpy with the apples. No.
I mean,
get drunk.
No, I've never actually heard that before at all.
I don't know.
The one time
you live in the city, right?
Well, the one time I remember we actually stole something it was around Halloween, and it was really late at night, and I was at my cousin's house, and we were driving around, and then we drove by a pumpkin patch, and we just like stopped the car and just
there you go.
Went and grabbed some pumpkins.
You went scrumping.
And then
you went scrumping.
Well,
for pumpkins.
So, and shout out to Briar Rose for becoming the newest member. But listen, this is as we were driving, my cousin's friend had this bright idea to throw this pumpkin at an oncoming car coming the other direction. So he's driving and he's going like 30 miles an hour, and the other car's coming, and he leans out the window like nobody knows what's going on, because we were just like, let's get some pumpkins and smash them or whatever. Literally leans out the car window and throws this huge pumpkin at the other car coming the other way, right? And everyone's like, oh my god, I think I was like 18 at the time or 17 at the time, and everyone's like, oh, hit the gas and get the hell out of here. And I remember we came back later, and I guess the pumpkin broke their windshield, because there's like a cop there. There's cops there and stuff, and like they're all sitting there. I'm like, I guess or maybe it did. Maybe I'm misremembering. All I remember is we came back and they were still there, and there was like a cop car and 2 cop cars. And we didn't get close enough. We were just mad they're still there, and like we thought, like, did you break their wind? But I was like, is a pumpkin really gonna break a windshield? I don't know about that.
If it's not ripe, like if it's still like hard, then yeah, I would imagine a pumpkin probably would break the windshield. Man, what the hell?
I mean, there are some stories like I didn't do it, and nobody knew. Like we didn't know anything was gonna happen. It was just like, oh, there goes the pumpkin, and oh, it's on someone's windshield, and maybe it broke it. I do recall, like when I was also in high school, we had this friend who was like, let's just say mentally unstable, right?
Oh dear.
He was kind of a rebel, I guess you would say.
Rebel.
He didn't like some of his next door neighbors, so like we
oh no.
He would sometimes like do ding dong ditch, which obviously I'm sure you know. Shady's ditch. Like in Chicago. No, this was not in Chicago. This was out in more of like the country in Illinois. But definitely not around Chicago.
What is ding dong ditch?
So ding dong ditch is where you run up to someone's house and you like ring the doorbell and then you like run away, right?
Oh, we call that knock door run.
Yeah. Well, it didn't kill anybody, Shady, but Artemis says that's a felony. I mean, I guess it is. I didn't do it. I didn't throw the pumpkin out the window. I didn't even know it was happening until it happened. Maybe I shouldn't tell any of my stories. I guess not. But so we're all walking, and for whatever reason, he takes out like he like goes into his house and he grabs like a I forget why, and obviously this is so long ago, but all I remember is like he basically like went up to the house of the person he didn't like, and like he had his shirt on a hanger and he set it on fire, and he hung it on like the door handle and rang the door, the ding dong ditch, because sometimes a ding dong ditcher might leave like a bag of poo and like you know, so the person opens up and there's like a bag there and it's just full of dog shit or whatever, right? But so he did it where he set his shirt on fire and like hung it on the doorknob and rang it and whatever, and we're all just like, what the fuck? Because this is also a dude who literally got us in trouble. One time he like we were coming back at 2:00 in the morning, and I was walking home and he was walking with us, and he just ran up to a person's house and ripped off their like gutter, you know, like just like literally ripped off their gutter, and it was like he came me and my buddy.
Who are you hanging around with?
Well, it was, you see, my mom always said, don't hang around with that kid. He's mentally unstable and stuff like that, right? And so we're coming back at like 2:00 in the morning, and I think they were both my friends were drunk because I didn't drink, and like he ran up to this house because he didn't like the people living there, and like ripped off their like gutter, man, and me and my buddy are watching him do. We're like, what is he doing? And then he goes up there, rips it off, and like me and my buddy just take off running. We're like, what the you know? And he's running behind us carrying this huge gutter, right? Just running behind us with this huge gutter, running after us, and it's 2:00 in the morning, and I gotta get home. I'm like, what is going on? And he kept, we stop running. He throws the gutter at us, right? And we like walk 3 blocks, and I'm almost home, and someone pulls up in a car, gets out of the car, and he's just like, hey guys, what are you guys doing? You have a nice night out? And we're all like, yeah. And then he just gets up and says, which one of you MFers ripped off my gutter? And I'm like, oh fuck, you know, and I'm like, and then the people whose house he stopped us at in front of, like, came out, and they're like, what's going on here? And like, call the cops. Like, these people just vandalized my property. And so the cops came and they arrested my buddy, and we got put in the back of the cop car and we got taken to the police station, but like nothing happened to us. But so this dude who's obviously crazy, so he put like the shirt on fire, put it on the doorbell and rang it and left. And we all like took off because we didn't understand what the hell he's going on, right? We come back like later, and like there's like a chemical spill crew or something in front of the house, like cleaning up, and like the door's like halfway melted. Like I guess they like nobody, they didn't answer the door
or something.
Or I don't know, but it was like there was cops there, and there was like a chemical spill crew or something. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just like, what? But we stopped hanging around that guy after a bit.
Yeah,
because,
I should think so.
Yeah. Lydia says these stories is why Xbox 2 lasts for 3 hours plus. Yeah, we were gonna leave, but now you heard the story. But now everyone thinks I'm a felon. Like I didn't do any of this stuff. It was just stuff that happened. It was just like
you stole the pumpkin.
Okay, I did. Yeah, okay, I'll admit that I did. But you know, I didn't throw it at anybody's car.
Did you at least eat the pumpkin?
No. I didn't.
No.
RRDC says Randall criminal. Sean Labrie says he's missing a gutter. Yeah.
Oh my god.
So yeah, it's just Shady says Randall delinquent. Yeah. Like I said, there are some stories. It's just it's all, you know, I get guilty by association, but like, yeah, that dude, when we were hanging out with that dude, like that dude did some crazy things. And
it's inner city living, man. Like I swear to God, if I'd have lived in, I mean, I genuinely think World of Warcraft helped keep me out of trouble, because like the area I live in, you know, and some of the people I used to hang around with, a lot of them went on to be like drug addicts and stuff. But instead of being addicted to drugs, I got addicted to World of Warcraft. So part of me thinks like maybe World of Warcraft kept me away from some of this stuff. But,
Yeah, but all these stories are literally like, I don't know, what, like 20, 22 years ago, 25 years ago
20,
type stuff,
20, 30, 40 years ago.
I mean, they're
50 years
forever
ago.
years ago.
50 years ago, man.
Yeah. But
60
anyways,
years ago.
hope you enjoyed the Randall Fallon stories.
Randall's statute of limitations.
I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't share any more of these. Maybe I get in trouble. Someone would be like, I was
Randall
there.
Thor, the man with the warrant. Yeah. The man with the warrant. The guy. There's a guy somewhere. There's a guy somewhere in Illinois. Like he's like like that meme of the guy with like a map and like there's pins in it and string everywhere. There's a guy who's been trying to track you down for the last like 25 years over this.
Yeah, right.
And you've just given him the final piece of the puzzle. And there's a guy going to show up at your house with a bill plus interest for a new guttering.
Yeah, well, I didn't rip off the gutter, and they arrested my buddy, and it was just, oh man, it was so weird. I got in so much trouble for that. One bad mother says Jez should do an entire show in his version of an American accent. Great show, and have a great weekend, friends. Could you do a whole show in an American accent?
I honestly don't know. I really don't know. I really don't know. I'd have to practice, maybe. That's hard. That is hard.
That definitely.
Maybe I could just be an actor. I was watching Venom yesterday, and I was really impressed with Tom Hardy's American accent, because he's like as Londoner as they come. Tom Hardy is, but he does a mean accent, that Tom Hardy guy. It's almost like he's a professional actor or something. I don't know. Randall Criminal. They got the man with the warrant. You've got a load of new nicknames, man. Load of new nicknames.
Anyways, I think that'll be where we end the show for now. So we'll be back next week for another epic podcast, I guess. So
indeed, indubitably.
So
can you say indubitably?
Indubitably?
Yeah, indubitably.
No.
Oh, you just
definitely not. Anyways, have a good weekend, guys, and we'll be back next week.